This is a rap beat. This is a rap beat. Let's rock the house, baby. Fred Theory, he's supposed to do it this good. It's Fred Theory, he's supposed to do it this good. Fred Theory, Fred Theory, Fred Theory Show. Fred Theory, he's supposed to do it this good. It's Fred Theory, he's supposed to do it this good. Fred Theory, Fred Theory, Fred Theory Show. What time is it? It's that 30 time. What time is it? It's that show time. What time is it? That 30 time. What time is it? That show time.
Do you want to know what the government's been lying to us about for the last 3 years? Want to know the truth about Big Pharma's death grip on humankind? Want to know the names on the Epstein flight logs? You want the cold hard facts about Neil Armstrong and Buzz and what they actually saw when they landed on the moon? You want one final answer on Black Lives Matter and White Lives Matter and whose life actually matters? Do you want the truth about what the Illuminati actually is and who's really involved in it? If you want to know if when a man gives birth, does a baby come out of his pee hole or his butthole? Do you want to know the controversial truth about how human life began?
Fred Fury's online
Doesn't
picket
have
party.
any of that, but we sure do have the dope-ass music for your ear holes, eh?
I fucking hate conspiracy theories because I embrace facts.
Oh, he got bars.
Let me give it a try.
A conspiracy theory is only a theory until it's proven to be true. But you only see what the new spoon feeds you and only hang with sheep like you. Now, I'm not gonna say that every theory is a fact, or my opinion should only matter to me. But don't attack somebody else because you lack the mind power to wrap it around the possibility. Let's go. You see, the world that we live in is truly fucked up, so I don't push it past anyone. I look without a biased view. I leave the judgment up to you because it seems like you try to troll for fun. So let me give you what you want. I shed light on your flawed logic because apparently that's something that you lack. Just because your pretty little brain can't fathom what I'm saying doesn't mean that it can't be a fact.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I'm getting some breaking news. It turns out the world is ending, and we're all fucked.
Pillar of Fire by Ray Bradbury. Section 1. He came out of the earth hating. Hate was his father. Hate was his mother. It was good to walk again. It was good to leap up out of the earth, off of your back, and stretch your cramped arms violently and try to take a deep breath. He tried. He cried out. He couldn't breathe. He flung his arms over his face and tried to breathe. It was impossible. He walked on the earth. He came out of the earth. But he was dead. He couldn't breathe. He couldn't take air into his mouth and force it halfway down his throat. With withered moves of long dormant muscles, wildly. And with this little air, he could shout and cry. He wanted to have tears, but he couldn't make them come either.
Friday, Sugar
All he knew was that he
2018.
was standing upright.
Welcome.
He was dead. He shouldn't be walking. He couldn't breathe, and yet he stood. The smells of the world were all about him. Frustratedly, he tried to smell the smells of autumn. Autumn was burning the land down into ruin. All across the country, the ruins of summer lay. Vast forests bloomed with flame. Tumbled down timber on empty, unleafed timber. The smoke of the burning was rich, blue, and invisible. He stood in the graveyard, hating. He walked through the world, and yet could not taste nor smell of it. He heard, yes. The wind roared on his newly opened ears, but he was dead. Even though he walked, he knew he was dead, and should expect not too much of himself or this hateful living world. He touched the tombstone over his own empty grave. He knew his own name again. It was a good job of carving. William Lantry. That's what the gravestone said. His fingers trembled on the cool stone surface. Born 1898, died 1933. Born again? What year? He glanced at the sky and the midnight autumnal stars moving in slow illuminations across the windy black. He read the tiltings of centuries in those stars. Orion thus, and so Auriga here. And where, Taurus? There. His eyes narrowed. His lips spelled out the year. 2349. An odd number, like a school sum. They used to say a man couldn't encompass any number over 100. After that, it was all so damned abstract there was no use counting. This was the year 2349. A numeral, a sum. And here he was, a man who had lain in his hateful dark coffin, hating to be buried, hating the living people above who lived and lived and lived, hating them for all the centuries until today. Now, born out of hatred, he stood by his own freshly excavated grave. The smell of raw earth in the air, perhaps, but he could not smell it. "I," he said, addressing a poplar tree that was shaken by the wind, "am an anachronism." He smiled faintly. He looked at the graveyard. It was cold and empty. All of the stones had been ripped up and piled like so many flat bricks, one atop another, in the far corner by the wrought iron fence. This had been going on for 2 endless weeks. In his deep secret coffin he had heard the heartless wild stirring as the men jabbed the earth with cold spades and tore out the coffins and carried away the withered ancient bodies to be burned. Twisting with fear in his coffin, he had waited for them to come to him. Today they had arrived at his coffin, but late. They had dug down to within an inch of the lid. 5 o'clock bell, time for quitting. Home to supper. The workers had gone off. Tomorrow they would finish the job, they said, shrugging into their coats. Silence had come to the emptied tomb yard. Carefully, quietly, with a soft rattling of sod, the coffin lid had lifted. William Lantry stood trembling now in the last cemetery on earth. "Remember?" he asked himself, looking at the raw earth. "Remember those stories of the last man on earth? Those stories of men wandering in ruins alone? Well, you, William Lantry, are a switch on the old story. Do you know that? You are the last dead man in the whole damned world." There were no more dead people. Nowhere in any land was there a dead person. Impossible? Lantry did not smile at this. No, not impossible at all in this foolish, sterile, unimaginative, antiseptic age of cleansings and scientific methods. People died, oh my God, yes, but dead people? Corpses? They didn't exist. What happened to dead people? The graveyard was on a hill. William Lantry walked through the dark, burning night until he reached the edge of the graveyard and looked down upon the new town of Salem. It was all illumination, all color. Rocket ships cut fire above it, crossing the sky to all the far ports of Earth. In his grave, the new violence of this future world had driven down and seeped into William Lantry. He had been bathed in it for years. He knew all about it with a hating dead man's knowledge of such things. Most important of all, he knew what these fools did with dead men. He lifted his eyes. In the center of the town, a massive stone finger pointed at the stars. It was 300 feet high and 50 feet across. There was a wide entrance and a drive in front of it. In the town, theoretically, thought William Lantry, say you are a dying man. In a moment he will be dead. What happens? No sooner is his pulse cold, when a certificate is flourished, made out, his relatives pack him into a car beetle and drive him swiftly to the incinerator. That functional finger, that pillar of fire pointing at the stars. Incinerator. A functional, terrible name. But truth is truth in this future world. Like a stick of kindling, your Mr. Deadman is shot into the furnace. Flume. William Lantry looked at the top of the gigantic pistol shoving at the stars. A small pennant of smoke issued from the top. There's where your dead people go. Take care of yourself, William Lantry, he murmured. You're the last one, the rare item, the last dead man. All the other graveyards of Earth have been blasted up. This is the last graveyard, and you're the last dead man from the centuries. These people don't believe in having dead people about, much less walking dead people. Everything that can't be used goes up like a matchstick. Superstition's right along with it. He looked at the town. All right, he thought quietly. I hate you. You hate me, or you would if you knew I existed. You don't believe in such things as vampires or ghosts, labels without reference. You cry. You snort. All right, snort. Frankly, I don't believe in you either. I don't like you. You and your incinerators. He trembled. How very close it had been. Day after day they had hauled out the other dead ones, burned them like so much kindling. An edict had been broadcast around the world. He had heard the digging men talk as they worked. "I guess it's a good idea, this cleaning up the graveyards," said one of the dead men. "Guess so," said another. "Grisly custom, can you imagine being buried? I mean, unhealthy, all them germs." "Sort of a shame. Romantic, kind of. I mean, leaving just this one graveyard untouched all these centuries. The other graveyards were cleaned out. What year was it, Jim?" "About 2260, I think. Yeah, that was it, 2260, almost 100 years ago. But some Salem committee, they got down on their high horse and they said, 'Look here, let's have just one graveyard left to remind us of the customs of the barbarians.' And the government scratched its head, thunk it over, and said, 'Okay, Salem it is, but all other graveyards go. You understand all?' And away they went," said Jim. "Sure, they sucked him out with fire and steam shovels and rocket cleaners. If they knew a man was buried in a cow pasture, they fixed him. Evacuated them, they did. Sort of cruel, I say. I hate to sound old-fashioned, but still, there were a lot of tourists came here every year just to see what a real graveyard was like. Right, we had nearly 1 million people in the last 3 years visiting. Good revenue, but a government order is an order. The government says no more morbidity, so flush her out we do. Here we go. Hand me that spade, Bill." William Lantry stood in the autumn wind on the hill. It was good to walk again, to feel the wind and to hear the leaves scuttling like mice on the road ahead of him. It was good to see the bitter cold stars almost blown away by the wind. It was even good to know fear again. For fear arose in him now, and he could not put it away. The very fact that he was walking made him an enemy. And there was not another friend, another dead man in all of the world to whom one could turn for help or consolation. It was the whole melodramatic living world against one William Lantry. It was the whole vampire disbelieving, body-burning, graveyard-annihilating world against a man in a dark suit on a dark autumn hill. He put out his pale cold hands into the city illumination. "You've pulled the tombstones like teeth from the yard," he thought. "Now I'll find some way to push your damnable incinerators down into rubble. I will make dead people again. I will make friends in so doing. I cannot be alone and lonely. I must start manufacturing friends very soon. Tonight. War is declared," he said and laughed. It was pretty silly, one man declaring war on an entire world. The world did not answer back. A rocket crossed the sky on a rush of flame like an incinerator taking wing. Footsteps. Lantry hastened to the edge of the cemetery. The diggers coming back to finish up their work? No, just someone, a man, walking by. As the man came abreast the cemetery gate, Lantry stepped swiftly out. "Good evening," said the man, smiling. Lantry struck the man in the face. The man fell. Lantry bent quietly down and hit the man a killing blow across the neck with the side of his hand. Dragging the body back into shadow, he stripped it, changed clothes with it. It wouldn't do for a fellow to go wandering about this future world with ancient clothing on. He found a small pocket knife in the man's coat. Not much of a knife, but enough if he knew how to handle it properly. He knew how. He rolled the body down into one of the already opened and exhumed graves. In a minute he had shoveled dirt down upon it, just enough to hide it. There was little chance of it being found. They wouldn't dig the same grave twice. He adjusted himself in his new loose-fitting metallic suit. Fine. Hating, William Lantry walked down into town to do battle with the earth. 2. The incinerator was open. It never closed. There was a wide entrance all lighted up with hidden illumination. There was a helicopter landing table and a beetle drive. The town itself was dying down after another day of the dynamo. The lights were going dim, and the only quiet lighted spot in the town now was the incinerator. God, what a practical name. What an unromantic name. William Lantry entered the wide, well-lighted door. It was an entrance, really. There were no doors to open or shut. People could go in and out. Summer or winter, the inside was always warm warm from the fire that rushed whispering up the high round flue to where the whirlers, the propellers, the air jets pushed the leafy gray ashes on away for a 10-mile ride down the sky. There was the warmth of the bakery here. The halls were flooded with rubber parquet. You couldn't make a noise if you wanted to. Music played in hidden throats somewhere. Not music of death at all, but music of life and the way the sun lived inside the incinerator. Or the sun's brother, anyway. You could hear the flame floating inside the heavy brick wall. William Lantry descended a ramp. Behind him, he heard a whisper and turned in time to see a beetle stop before the entranceway. A bell rang. The music, as if at a signal, rose to ecstatic heights. There was joy in it. From the beetle, which opened from the rear, some attendants stepped, carrying a golden box. It was 6 feet long, and there were sun symbols on it. From another beetle, the relatives of the man in the box stepped and followed as the attendants took the golden box down a ramp to a kind of altar. On the side of the altar were the words, "We that were born of the sun return to the sun." The golden box was deposited upon the altar. The music leaped upward. The guardian of this place spoke only a few words. Then the attendants picked up the golden box, walked to a transparent wall, a safety lock also transparent, and opened it. The box was shoved into the glass slot. A moment later, an inner lock opened. The box was injected into the interior of the flue and vanished instantly in quick flame. The attendants walked away. The relatives, without a word, turned and walked out. The music played. William Lantry approached the glass fire lock. He peered through the wall at the vast, glowing, never-ceasing heart of the incinerator. It burned steadily, without a flicker, singing to itself peacefully. It was so solid, it was like a golden river flowing up out of the earth toward the sky. Anything you put into the river was borne upward, vanished. Lantry felt again his unreasoning hatred of this thing, this monster, cleansing fire. A man stood at his elbow. "May I help you, sir?" "What?" Lantry turned abruptly. "What did you say?" "May I be of service?" That is..." Lantry looked quickly at the ramp and the door. His hands trembled at his sides. "I've never been in here before." "Never?" The attendant was surprised. That had been the wrong thing to say, Lantry realized. But it was said, nevertheless. "I mean," he said, "not really. I mean, when you're a child, somehow you don't pay attention. I suddenly realized tonight that I didn't really know the incinerator." The attendant smiled. "We never know anything, do we, really? I'll be glad to show you around." "Oh, no, never mind. It's a wonderful place." "Yes, it is." The attendant took pride in it. "One of the finest in the world, I think." Lantry felt he must explain further. "I haven't had many relatives die on me since I was a child. In fact, none. So you see, I haven't been here for many years." "I see." The attendant's face seemed to darken somewhat. "What have I said now?" thought Lantry. "What in God's name is wrong? What have I done? If I'm not careful, I'll get myself shoved right into that damnable fire trap. What's wrong with this fellow's face? He seems to be giving me more than the usual going over." "You wouldn't be one of the men who've just returned from Mars, would you?" asked the attendant. "No, why do you ask?" "No matter." The attendant began to walk off. "If you want to know anything, just ask me." "Just one thing," said Lantry. "What's that?" "This!" Lantry dealt him a stunning blow across the neck. He had watched the fire trap operator with expert eyes. Now, with the sagging body in his arms, he touched the button that opened the warm outer lock, placed the body in, heard the music rise, and saw the inner lock open. The body shot out into the river of fire. The music softened. "Well done, Lantry, well done." Barely an instant later, another attendant entered the room. Lantry was caught with an expression of pleased excitement on his face. The attendant looked around as if expecting to find someone. Then he walked toward Lantry. "May I help you?" "Just looking," said Lantry. "Rather late at night?" said the attendant. "I couldn't sleep." That was the wrong answer, too. Everybody slept in this world. Nobody had insomnia. If you did, you simply turned on a hypno-ray, and 60 seconds later you were snoring. Oh, he was just so full of wrong answers. First, he had made the fatal error of saying he had never been in the incinerator before, when he knew damned well that all children were brought here on tours every year from the time they were 4 to instill the idea of the clean fire death and the incinerator in their minds. Death was a bright fire. Death was warmth and the sun. It was not a dark, shadowed thing. That was important in their education. And he, pale, thoughtless fool, had immediately gabbled out his ignorance. And another thing, this paleness of his. He looked at his hands and realized with growing terror that a pale man also was non-existent in this world. They would suspect his paleness. That was why the first attendant had asked, "Are you one of those newly men returned from Mars?" Here now, this new attendant was clean and bright as a copper penny, his cheeks red with health and energy. Lantry hid his pale hands in his pockets, but he was fully aware of the searching the attendant did on his face. "I meant to say," said Lantry, "I didn't want to sleep, I wanted to think." "Was there a service held here a moment ago?" asked the attendant, looking about. "I don't know, I just came in." "I thought I heard the fire lock open and shut." "I don't know." The man pressed a wall button. "Anderson?" a voice replied. "Yes?" "Locate Saul for me, will you?" "I'll ring the corridors." A pause. "Can't find him." "Thanks." The attendant was puzzled. He was beginning to make little sniffing motions with his nose. "Do you smell anything?" Lantry sniffed. "No? Why?" "I smell something." Lantry took hold of the knife in his pocket. He waited. "I remember once when I was a kid," said the man, "and we found a cow lying dead in the field. It had been there 2 days in the hot sun. That's what this smell is. I wonder what it's from." "Oh, I know what that is," said Lantry quietly. He held out his hand. "Here." "What?" "Me, of course." "You?" "Dead several 100 years." "You're an odd joker." The attendant was puzzled. "Very." Lantry took out the knife. "Do you know what this is?" "A knife?" "Do you ever use knives on people anymore?" "How do you mean?" "I mean, killing them. With knives or guns or poison." "You are an odd joker." The man giggled awkwardly. "I'm going to kill you," said Lantry. "Nobody kills anybody," said the man. "Not anymore they don't, but they used to. In the old days. I know they did. This will be the first murder in 300 years. I just killed your friend. I just shoved him into the firelock." That remark had the desired effect. It numbed the man so completely, it shocked him so thoroughly with its illogical aspects, that Lantry had time to walk forward. He put the knife against the man's chest. "I'm going to kill you." "That's silly," said the man numbly. "People don't do that." "Like this?" said Lantry. "You see?" The knife slid into the chest. The man stared at it for a moment. Lantry caught the falling body. 3. The Salem flue exploded at 6 that morning. The great fire chimney shattered into 10,000 parts and flung itself into the earth, and into the sky, and into the houses of the sleeping people. There was fire and sound, more fire than autumn made burning in the hills. William Lantry was 5 miles away at the time of the explosion. He saw the town ignited by the great spreading cremation of it, and he shook his head and laughed a little bit and clapped his hands smartly together. Relatively simple. You walked around killing people who didn't believe in murder, had only heard of it indirectly as some dim-gone custom of the old barbarian races. You walked into the control room of the incinerator and said, "How do you work this incinerator?" And the control man told you, because everybody told the truth in this world of the future. Nobody lied. There was no reason to lie. There was no danger to lie against. There was only one criminal in the world, and nobody knew he existed yet. Oh, it was an incredibly beautiful setup. The control man had told him just how the incinerator worked, What pressure gauges controlled the flood of fire gases going up the flue? What levers were adjusted or readjusted? He and Lantry had quite a talk. It was an easy, free world. People trusted people. A moment later, Lantry had shoved a knife in the control man also and set the pressure gauges for an overload to occur half an hour later and walked out of the incinerator halls whistling. Now even the sky was palled with the vast black cloud of the explosion. "This is only the first," said Lantry, looking at the sky. "I'll tear all the others down before they even suspect there's an unethical man loose in their society. They can't account for a variable like me. I'm beyond their understanding. I'm incomprehensible, impossible. Therefore I do not exist. My God, I can kill hundreds of thousands of them before they even realize murder is out in the world again. I can make it look like an accident each time. Why, the idea is so huge it's unbelievable." The fire burned the town. He sat under a tree for a long time until morning. Then he found a cave in the hills and went in to sleep. He awoke at sunset with a sudden dream of fire. He saw himself pushed into the flue, cut into sections by flame, burned away to nothing. He sat up on the cave floor, laughing at himself. He had an idea. He walked down into the town and stepped into an audio booth. He dialed operator. "Give me the police department," he said. "I beg your pardon?" said the operator. He tried again. "The law force," he said. "I will connect you with the peace control," she said at last. A little fear began ticking inside him like a tiny watch. Suppose the operator recognized the term police department as an acronym, took his audio number, and sent someone out to investigate. No, she wouldn't do that. Why should she suspect? Paranoids were non-existent in this civilization. "Yes, the peace control," he said. A buzz, a man's voice answered. "Peace control, Stephen speaking." "Give me the homicide detail," said Lantry, smiling. "The what?" "Who investigates murders?" "I beg your pardon, what are you talking about?" "Wrong number," Lantry hung up, chuckling. Ye gods, there was no such thing as a homicide detail. There were no murders, therefore they needed no detectives. Perfect, perfect! The audio rang back. Lantry hesitated, then answered. "Say," said the voice on the phone, "who are you?" "The man just left who called," said Lantry, and hung up again. He ran. They would recognize his voice and perhaps send someone out to check. People didn't lie. He had just lied. They knew his voice. He had lied. Anybody who lied needed a psychiatrist. They would come to pick him up to see why he was lying. For no other reason. They suspected him of nothing else. Therefore he must run. Oh, how very carefully he must act from now on. He knew nothing of this world. This odd, straight, truthful, ethical world. Simply by looking pale you were suspect. Simply by not sleeping nights you were suspect. Simply by not bathing. By smelling like a dead cow you were suspect. Anything. He must go to a library. But that was dangerous too. What were libraries like today? Did they have books, or did they have film spools which projected books on a screen? Or did people have libraries at home, thus eliminating the necessity of keeping large main libraries? He decided to chance it. His use of archaic terms might well make him suspect again. But now it was very important he learned all that could be learned of this foul world into which he had come again. He stopped a man on the street. "Which way to the library?" The man was not surprised. 2 blocks east, 1 block north." "Thank you." Simple as that. He walked into the library a few minutes later. "May I help you?" He looked at the librarian. "May I help you? May I help you? What a world of helpful people. I'd like to have Edgar Allan Poe." His verb was carefully chosen. He didn't say read. He was too afraid that books were passé and that printing itself was a lost art. Maybe all books today were in the form of fully delineated 3-dimensional motion pictures. How in hell could you make a motion picture out of Socrates, Schopenhauer, Nietzsche, and Freud? What was that name again? Edgar Allan Poe. There's no such author listed in our files. Will you please check? She checked. Oh, yes, there's a red mark on the file card. He was one of the authors in the Great Burning of 2265. How ignorant of me. That's all right, she said. Have you heard much of him? He had some interesting barbarian ideas on death, said Lantry. Horrible ones, she said, wrinkling her nose. Ghastly. Yes, ghastly. Abominable, in fact. Good thing he was burned. Unclean. By the way, do you have any of Lovecraft? Is that a sex book? Lantry exploded with laughter. No, it's a man. She rifled the file. He was burned too, along with Poe. I suppose that applies to Machen and a man named Derleth and one named Ambrose Bierce also? Yes, she set the file cabinet. All burned, and good riddance. She gave him an odd, warm look of interest. I bet you've just come back from Mars. Why do you say that? There was another explorer in here today. He had just made the Mars hop and return. He was interested in supernatural literature also. It seems there are actually tombs on Mars. What are tombs? Lantry was learning to keep his mouth closed. You know, those things they once buried people in. Barbarian custom, ghastly. Isn't it? Well, seeing the Martian tombs made this young explorer curious. He came and asked if we had any of those authors you mentioned. Of course, we haven't even a smidge of their stuff. She looked at his pale face. You are one of the Martian rocket men, aren't you? Yes, he said. Got back on the ship the other day. The other young man's name was Burke. Of course, Burke, good friend of mine. Sorry I can't help you. You'd best get yourself some vitamin shots and some sun lamp. You look terrible, Mr. Lantry. I'll be good. Thanks ever so much. See you next Hallows Eve. Aren't you the clever one? She laughed. If there were a Hallows Eve, I'd make it a date. But they burned that too, he said. Oh, they burned everything, she said. Good night. Good night. And he went out. Oh, how carefully he was balanced in this world. Like some kind of dark gyroscope whirling with never a murmur. A very silent man. As he walked along the 8 o'clock evening street, he noticed with particular interest that there was not an unusual amount of lights about. There were the usual street lights at each corner, but the blocks themselves were only faintly illuminated. Could it be that these remarkable people were not afraid of the dark? Incredible nonsense! Everyone was afraid of the dark. Even he himself had been afraid as a child. It was as natural as eating. A little boy ran by on pelting feet, followed by 6 others. They yelled and shouted and rolled on the dark, cool October lawn in the leaves. Lantry looked on for several minutes before addressing himself to one of the small boys, who was for a moment taking a respite. Gathering his breath into small lungs as a boy might blow to refill a punctured paper bag. Here now, said Lantry, you'll wear yourself out. Sure, said the boy. Could you tell me, said the man, why there are no street lights in the middle of the blocks? Why? asked the boy. I'm a teacher. I thought I'd test your knowledge, said Lantry. Well, said the boy, you don't need lights in the middle of the block, that's why. But it gets rather dark, said Lantry. So? said the boy. Aren't you afraid? asked Lantry. Of what? asked the boy. The dark, said Lantry. said the boy. Why should I be? Well, said Lantry, it's black, it's dark. And after all, streetlights were invented to take away the dark and take away fear. That's silly. Streetlights were made so you could see where you were walking. Outside of that, there's nothing. You missed the whole point, said Lantry. Do you mean to say you would sit in the middle of an empty lot all night and not be afraid? Of what? Of what? You little ninny of the dark! Would you go out in the hills and stay all night in the dark? Sure. Would you stay in a deserted house alone? Sure. And not be afraid? Sure. You're a liar. Don't you call me nasty names, shouted the boy. Liar was the improper noun, indeed. It seemed to be the worst thing you could call a person. Lantry was completely furious with the little monster. Look, he insisted. Look into my eyes. The boy looked. Lantry bared his teeth slightly. He put out his hands, making a claw-like gesture. He leered and gesticulated and wrinkled his face into a terrible mask of horror. Oh, said the boy, you're funny. What did you say? You're funny. Do it again. Hey, gang, come here. This man does funny things. Never mind. Do it again, sir. Never mind. Good night. Lantry ran off. Good night, sir, and mind the dark, sir, called the little boy. Of all the stupid, of all the rank, gross, crawling, jelly-mouthed stupidity. He had never seen the like of it in his life. Bringing the children up without so much as an ounce of imagination? Where was the fun in being children if you didn't imagine things? He stopped running. He slowed and, for the first time, began to appraise himself. He ran his hand over his face and bit his finger and found that he himself was standing midway in the block, and he felt uncomfortable. He moved up to the street corner where there was a glowing lantern. That's better, he said, holding his hands out like a man to an open, warm fire. He listened. There was not a sound except the night breathing of the crickets. Faintly there was a fire hush as a rocket swept the sky. It was the sound a torch might make brandished gently on the dark air. He listened to himself, and for the first time he realized what there was so peculiar to himself. There was not a sound in him. The little nostril and lung noises were absent. His lungs did not take nor give oxygen or carbon dioxide. They did not move. The hairs in his nostrils did not quiver with warm combing air. That faint purring whisper of breathing did not sound in his nose. Strange, funny. A noise you never heard when you were alive. The breath that fed your body and yet once dead. Oh, how you missed it. The only other time you ever heard it was on deep, dreamless, awake nights when you wakened and listened and heard first your nose taking and gently poking out the air. And then the dull, deep, dim red thunder of the blood in your temples and your eardrums and your throat and your aching wrists and your warm loins and your chest. All of those little rhythms gone. The wrist beat gone. The throat pulse gone. The chest vibration gone. The sound of the blood coming up, down, around and through, up, down, round and through. Now it was like listening to a statue. And yet he lived, or rather, moved about. And how was this done? Over and above scientific explanations, theories, doubts. By one thing and one thing alone. Hatred. Hatred was a blood in him. It went up, down, around and through, up, down, around and through. It was a heart in him, not beating true, but warm. He was, what, resentment? Envy? They said he could not lie any longer in his coffin in the cemetery. He had wanted to. He had never had any particular desire to get up and walk around. It had been enough all these centuries to lie in the deep box and feel, but not feel, the ticking of the million insect watches in the earth around, the moves of worms like so many deep thoughts in the soil. But then they had come and said, "Out you go and into the furnace." And that is the worst thing you can say to any man. You cannot tell him what to do. If you say you are dead, he will want not to be dead. If you say there are no such things as vampires, by God, that man will try to be one just for spite. If you say a dead man cannot walk, he will test his limbs. If you say murder is no longer occurring, he will make it occur. He was, in toto, all the impossible things. They had given birth to him with their damnable practices and ignorances. Oh, how wrong they were. They needed to be shown. He would show them. Sun is good. So is night. There's nothing wrong with dark, they said. Dark is horror, he shouted, silently facing the little houses. It is meant for contrast. You must fear, you hear. That has always been the way of this world. You destroyers of Edgar Allan Poe and fine, big-worded Lovecraft. You burner of Halloween masks and destroyer of pumpkin jack-o'-lanterns. I will make night what it once was. The thing against which man built all his lantern cities and his many children. As if in answer to this, a rocket flying low, trailing a long, rakish feather of flame. It made Lantry flinch and draw back. 4. It was but 10 miles to the little town of Scienceport. He made it by dawn, walking, but even this was not good. At 4 in the morning, a silver beetle pulled up on the road beside him. "Hello?" called the man inside. "Hello," said Lantry warily. "Why are you walking?" asked the man. "I'm going to Scienceport." "Why don't you ride?" "I like to walk." "Nobody likes to walk. Are you sick? May I give you a ride?" "Thanks, but I like to walk." The man hesitated, then closed the beetle door. "Good night." When the beetle was gone over the hill, Lantry retreated into a nearby forest. A world full of bungling, helping people. By God, you couldn't even walk without being accused of sickness. That meant only one thing. He must not walk any longer. He had to ride. He should have accepted that fellow's offer. The rest of the night he walked far enough off the highway so that if a beetle rushed by, he had time to vanish in the underbrush. At dawn, he crept into an empty, dry water drain and closed his eyes. The dream was as perfect as a rhymed snowflake. He saw the graveyard where he had lain deep and ripe over the centuries. He heard the early morning footsteps of the laborers returning to finish their work. "Would you mind passing me the shovel, Jim?" "Here you go." Wait a minute.
"What's up?"
Look here, we didn't finish this last night, did we?"
"No."
"There was one more coffin, wasn't there?"
"Yes."
"Well, here it is, and open."
"You've got the wrong hole."
"What's the name say on the gravestone?"
"Lantry, William Lantry."
"That's him, that's the one, gone."
"What could have happened to it?"
"How do I know? The body was here last night."
"We can't be sure. We didn't look."
God, man, people don't bury empty coffins. He was in his box. Now he isn't."
"Maybe this box was empty."
"Nonsense. Smell that smell? He was here all right."
A pause.
"Nobody would have taken the body, would they?"
"What for?"
"Curiosity, perhaps?"
"Don't be ridiculous. People just don't steal. Nobody steals."
"Well, then, there's only one solution."
"And?"
"He got up and walked away."
A pause. In the dark dream, Lantry expected to hear laughter. There was none. Instead, the voice of the gravedigger, after a thoughtful pause, said,
"Yes, that's it indeed. He got up and walked away."
"That's interesting to think about," said the other.
"Isn't it, though?"
Silence. Lantry awoke. It had all been a dream, but God, how realistic. How strangely the two men had carried on. But not unnaturally, oh no. That was exactly how you expected men of the future to talk. Men of the future. Lantry grinned wryly. That was an anachronism for you. This was the future. This was happening now. It wasn't 300 years from now. It was now, not then or any other time. This wasn't the 20th century. Oh, how calmly those two men in the dream had said he got up and walked away. Interesting to think about. Isn't it, though? With never a quaver in their voices. With not so much as a glance over their shoulders or a tremble of spade in hand. But of course, with their perfectly honest, logical minds, there was but one explanation. Certainly nobody had stolen the corpse. Nobody steals. The corpse had simply got up and walked off. The corpse was the only one who could have possibly moved the corpse. By the few casual, slow words of the gravediggers, Lantry knew what they were thinking. Here was a man that had lain in suspended animation, not really dead, for hundreds of years. The jarring about, the activity had brought him back. Everyone had heard of those little green toads that are sealed for centuries inside mud rocks or in ice patties, alive, oh, and how when scientists chipped them out and warmed them like marbles in their hands, the little toads leapt about and frisked and blinked. Then it was only logical that the gravediggers think of William Lantry in like fashion. But what if the various parts were fitted together in the next day or so? If the vanished body and the shattered, exploded incinerator were connected? What if this fellow named Burke, who had returned pale from Mars, went to the library again and said to the young woman he wanted some books, and she said, "Oh, your friend Lantry was in the other day." And he'd say, "Lantry who? Don't know anyone by that name." And she'd say, "Oh, he lied." And people in this time didn't lie. So it would all form and coalesce, item by item, bit by bit. A pale man who was pale and shouldn't be pale had lied, and people don't lie, and a walking man on a lonely country road had walked, and people don't walk anymore, and a body was missing from a cemetery, and the incinerator had blown up, and they would come after him. They would find him. He would be easy to find. He walked. He lied. He was pale. They would find him and take him,
and stick him through the open firelock of the nearest burner, and that would be your Mr. William Lantry, like a 4th of July set piece. There was only one thing to be done efficiently and completely. He arose in violent moves. His lips were wide and his dark eyes were flared, and there was a trembling and burning all through him. He must kill and kill and kill and kill and kill. He must make his enemies into friends, into people like himself who walked but shouldn't walk, who were pale in the land of pinks. He must kill and then kill again. He must make bodies and dead people and corpses. He must destroy incinerator after flue after burner after incinerator, explosion on explosion, death on death. Then when the incinerators were all in thrown ruin and the hastily established morgues were jammed with the bodies of people shattered by the explosion, then he would begin his making of friends, his enrollment of the dead in his own cause. Before they traced and found and killed him, they must be killed themselves. So far he was safe. He could kill, and they would not kill back. People simply do not go around killing. That was his safety margin. He climbed out of the abandoned drain, stood in the road. He took the knife from his pocket and hailed the next beetle. It was like the 4th of July, the biggest damned firecracker of them all. The Science Port incinerator split down the middle and flew apart. It made 1,000 small explosions that ended with a greater one. It fell upon the town and crushed houses and burned trees. It woke people from sleep and then put them to sleep again forever an instant later. William Lantry, sitting in a beetle that was not his own, tuned idly to a station on the audio dial. The collapse of the incinerator had killed some 400 people. Many had been caught in flattened houses, others struck by flying metal. A temporary morgue was being set up at. An address was given. Lantry noted it with a pad and pencil. He could go on this way, he thought, from town to town, from country to country, destroying the burners, the pillars of fire, until the whole clean, magnificent framework of flame and cauterization was tumbled. He made a fair estimate. Each explosion averaged 500 dead. You could work that up to 100,000 in no time. He pressed the floor stud of the beetle. Smiling, he drove off through the dark streets of the city. The city coroner had requisitioned an old warehouse. From midnight until 4 in the morning, the gray beetles hissed down the rain-shiny streets, turned in, and the bodies were laid out on the cold concrete floors, with white sheets over them. It was a continuous flow until about 4:30, and it stopped. There were about 200 bodies there, white and cold. The bodies were left alone. Nobody stayed behind to tend them. There was no use tending the dead. It was a useless procedure. The dead could take care of themselves. About 5 o'clock, with the touch of dawn in the east, the first trickle of relatives arrived to identify their sons or their fathers or their mothers or their uncles. The people moved quickly into the warehouse, made the identification, moved quickly out again. By 6 o'clock, with the sky still lighter in the east, this trickle had passed on also. William Lantry walked across the wide, wet street and entered the warehouse. He held a piece of blue chalk in one hand. He walked by the coroner, who stood in the entranceway talking to 2 others. "Drive the bodies to the incinerator in Mellontown tomorrow." The voices faded. Lantry moved, his feet echoing faintly on the cool concrete. A wave of sourceless relief came to him as he walked among the shrouded figures. He was among his own, and better than that, by God, he had created these. He had made them dead. He had procured for himself a vast number of recumbent friends. Was the coroner watching? Lantry turned his head. No. The warehouse was calm and quiet and shadowed in the dark morning. The coroner was walking away now across the street with his 2 attendants. A beetle had drawn up on the other side of the street, and the coroner was going over to talk with whoever was in the beetle. William Lantry stood and made a blue chalk pentagram on the floor by each of the bodies. He moved swiftly, without a sound, without blinking. In a few minutes, glancing up now and then to see if the coroner was still busy, he had chalked the floor by 100 bodies. He straightened up and put the chalk in his pocket. Now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their party. Now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their party. Now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their party. Now is the time. Lying in the earth over the centuries, the processes and thoughts of passing peoples and passing times had seeped down to him, slowly, as into a deep-buried sponge. From some death memory in him now, ironically, repeatedly, a black typewriter clacked out black, even lines of pertinent words. Now is the time for all good men, to come to the aid of William Lantry. Other words. Arise, my love, and come away. The quick brown fox jumped over. Paraphrase it. The quick risen body jumped over the tumbled incinerator. Lazarus, come forth from the tomb. He knew the right words. He need only speak them as they had been spoken over the centuries. He need only gesture with his hands and speak the words, the dark words that would cause these bodies to quiver, rise, and walk. And when they had risen, he would take them through the town. They would kill others, and the others would rise and walk. By the end of the day, there would be thousands of good friends walking with him. And what of the naive living people of this year, this day, this hour? They would be completely unprepared for it. They would go down to defeat because they would not be expecting war of any sort. They wouldn't believe it possible. It would all be over before they could convince themselves that such an illogical thing could happen. He lifted his hands. His lips moved. He said the words. He began in a chanting whisper, and then raised his voice louder. He said the words again and again. His eyes were closed tightly. His body swayed. He spoke faster and faster. He began to move forward among the bodies. The dark words flowed from his mouth. He was enchanted with his own formulae. He stooped and made further blue symbols on the concrete in the fashion of long-dead sorcerers, smiling, confident. Any moment now, the first tremor of the steel bodies. Any moment now, the rising, the leaping up of the cold ones. His hands lifted in the air. His head nodded. He spoke. He spoke. He spoke. He gestured. He talked loudly over the bodies, his eyes flaring, his body tense. Now! He cried violently. Rise, all of you! Nothing happened. Rise! He screamed with a terrible torment in his voice. The sheets lay in white-blue shadow folds over the silent body. Hear me enact! He shouted. Far away on the street, a beetle hissed along. Again he shouted, pleaded. He got down by each body and asked of it his particular violent favor. No reply. He strode wildly between the even white rows, flinging his arms up, stooping again and again to make blue symbols. Lantry was very pale. He licked his lips. Come on, get up, he said. They always have for 1,000 years. When you make a mark, so, and speak a word, so, they always rise. Why not you now? Why not you? Come on, before they come back. The warehouse went up into shadow. There were steel beams across and down. In it, under the roof, there was not a sound except the raving of a lonely man. Lantry stopped. Through the wide doors of the warehouse, he caught a glimpse of the last cold stars of morning. This was the year 2349. His eyes grew cold, and his hands fell to his sides. He did not move. Once upon a time, people shuddered when they heard the wind about the house. Once people raised crucifixes and wolfbane, and believed in walking dead, and bats, and loping white wolves, and as long as they believed, then so long did the dead, the bats, the loping wolves exist. The Mayan gave birth and reality to them, but he looked at the white-sheeted bodies. These people did not believe. They had never believed. They would never believe. They had never imagined that the dead might walk. The dead went up in flues and flame. They had never heard superstition, never trembled or shuddered or doubted in the dark. Walking dead people could not exist. They were illogical. This was the year 2349, man, after all. Therefore these people could not rise, could not walk again. They were dead and flat and cold. Nothing, chalk, imprecation, superstition, could wind them up and set them walking. They were dead and knew they were dead. He was alone. There were live people in the world who moved and drove beetles and drank quiet drinks in little, dimly illumined bars by country roads and kissed women and talked much good talk all day, every day. But he was not alive. Friction gave him what little warmth he possessed. There were 200 dead people here in this warehouse now, cold upon the floor. The first dead people in 100 years who were allowed to be corpses for an extra hour or more. The first not to be immediately trundled to the incinerator and lit like so much phosphorus. He should be happy with them, among them. He was not. They were completely dead. They did not know nor believe in walking once the heart had paused and stilled itself. They were deader than dead ever was. He was indeed alone. More alone than any man had ever been. He felt the chill of his aloneness moving up into his chest, strangling him quietly. William Lantry turned suddenly and gasped. While he had stood there, someone had entered the warehouse. A tall man with white hair, wearing a lightweight tan overcoat and no hat. How long the man had been nearby, there was no telling. There was no reason to stay here. Lantry turned and started to walk slowly out. He looked hastily at the man as he passed, and the man with the white hair looked back at him curiously. Had he heard? The imprecations, the pleadings, the shoutings? Did he suspect? Lantry slowed his walk. Had this man seen him make the blue chalk marks? But then, would he interpret them as symbols of an ancient superstition? Probably not. Reaching the door, Lantry paused. For a moment he did not want to do anything but lie down and be coldly, really dead again, and be carried silently down the street to some distant burning flue, and there dispatched in ash and whispering fire. If he was indeed alone, and there was no chance to collect an army to his cause, what then existed as a reason for going on? Killing? Yes, he'd kill a few thousand more, but that wasn't enough. You can only do so much of that before they drag you down. He looked at the cold sky. A rocket went across the black heaven, trailing fire. Mars burned red among a million stars. Mars, the library, the librarian, talk, returning rocket men, tombs. Lantry almost gave a shout. He restrained his hand, which was wanted so much to reach up into the sky and touch Mars. Lovely red star on the sky, good star that gave him sudden new hope. If he had a living heart now, it would be thrashing wildly, and sweat would be breaking out of him, and his pulses would be stammering, and tears would be in his eyes. He would go down to wherever the rockets sprang up into space. He would go to Mars one way or another. He would go to the Martian tombs. There, by God, were bodies. He would bet his last hatred on it. That would rise and walk and work with him. Theirs was an ancient culture, much different from that of Earth, patterned on the Egyptian, if what the librarian had said was true. And the Egyptian, what a crucible of dark superstition and midnight terror that culture had been. Mars it was, then, beautiful Mars. But he must not attract attention to himself. He must move carefully. He wanted to run, yes, to get away, but that would be the worst possible move he could make. The man with the white hair was glancing at Lantry from time to time in the entranceway. There were too many people about. If anything happened, he would be outnumbered. So far, he had taken on only one man at a time. Lantry forced himself to stop and stand on the steps before the warehouse. The man with the white hair came onto the steps also, and stood, looking at the sky. He looked as if he was going to speak at any moment. He fumbled in his pockets, took out a pack of cigarettes. 5. They stood outside the morgue together, the tall, pink, white-haired man and Lantry, hands in their pockets. It was a cool night with a white shell of a moon that washed a house here, a road there, and further on, parts of a river. "Cigarette?" The man offered Lantry one. "Thanks." They lit up together. The man glanced at Lantry's mouth. Cool night. Cool. They shifted their feet. Terrible accident. Terrible. So many dead. So many. Lantry felt himself some sort of delicate weight upon a scale. The other man did not seem to be looking at him, but rather listening and feeling toward him. There was a feathery balance here that made for vast discomfort. He wanted to move away and get out from under this balancing, weighing. The tall, white-haired man said, "My name's McClure." "Did you have any friends inside?" asked Lantry. "No, casual acquaintance. Awful accident. Awful." They balanced each other. A beetle hissed by on the road with its 17 tires whirling quietly. The moon shone a little town further over in the Black Hills. "I say," said the man, McClure. "Yes?" "Could you answer me a question?" "Be glad to." He loosened the knife in his coat pocket, ready. "Is your name Lantry?" asked the man at last. "Yes." "William Lantry?" "Yes." "Then you're the man who came out of the Salem graveyard day before yesterday, aren't you?" "Yes." "Good Lord, I'm glad to meet you, Lantry. We've been trying to find you for the past 24 hours. The man seized his hand, pumped it, slapped him on the back. What? Said Lantry. "Good Lord, man, why did you run off? Do you realize what an instance this is? We want to talk to you." McClure was smiling, glowing, another handshake, another slap. "I thought it was you." The man is mad, thought Lantry. Absolutely mad. Here I've toppled his incinerators, killed people, and he's shaking my hand. Mad! "Will you come along to the hall?" said the man, taking his elbow. "What hall?" Lantry stepped back. "The science hall, of course. It isn't every year we get a real case of suspended animation. In small animals, yes, but in a man, hardly. Will you come?" "What's the act?" declared Lantry, glaring. "What's all this talk?" "My dear fellow, what do you mean?" The man was stunned. "Never mind. Is that the only reason you want to see me?" "What other reason would there be, Mr. Lantry? You don't know how glad I am to see you." He almost did a little dance. "I suspected. When we were in there together, you being so pale and all, and then the way you smoked your cigarette, something about it. A lot of other things, all subliminal. But it is you, isn't it? It is you." "It is I, William Lantry," dryly. "Good fellow, come along." The beetle moved swiftly through the dawn streets. McClure talked rapidly. Lantry sat listening, astounded. Here was this fool, McClure, playing his cards for him. Here was this stupid scientist, or whatever, accepting him not as a suspicious baggage, a murderous item. Oh no, quite the contrary. Only as a suspended animation case was he considered. Not as a dangerous man at all, far from it. "Of course," cried McClure, grinning. "You didn't know where to go, whom to turn to. It was all quite incredible to you." "Yes. I had a feeling you'd be there at the morgue tonight," said McClure happily. "Oh?" Lantry stiffened. "Yes, can't explain it. But you, how shall I put it? Ancient Americans, you had funny ideas on death. And you were among the dead so long, I felt you'd be drawn back by accident by the morgue and all. Not very logical, silly, in fact. It's just a feeling. I hate feelings, but there it was. I came on I guess you'd call it a hunch, wouldn't you?" "You might call it that." "And there you were." "There I was," said Lantry. "Are you hungry?" "I've eaten." "How do you get around?" "I hitchhiked." "You what?" "People gave me rides on the road." "Remarkable." "I imagine it sounds that way." He looked at the passing houses. "So this is the era of space travel, is it?" "Oh, we've been traveling to Mars for some 40 years now." "Amazing. And those big funnels, those towers in the middle of every town?" "Those? Haven't you heard? The incinerators? Oh, of course, they hadn't anything of that sort in your time. Had some bad luck with them. An explosion in Salem and one here all in 48-hour period. You look as if you were going to speak. What is it?" "I was thinking," said Lantry, "how fortunate I got out of my coffin when I did. I might well have been thrown into one of your incinerators and burned up." "That would have been terrible, wouldn't it have?" "Quite."
Lantry toyed with the dials on the Beetle dash. He wouldn't go to Mars. His plans were changed. If this fool simply refused to recognize an act of violence when he stumbled upon it, then let him be a fool. If they didn't connect the two explosions with a man from the tomb, all well and good. Let them go on deluding themselves. If they couldn't imagine someone being mean and nasty and murderous, heaven help them. He rubbed his hands with satisfaction. No Martian trip for you as yet, Lantry lad. First we'll see what can be done, boring from the inside. Plenty of time. The incinerators can wait an extra week or so. One has to be subtle, you know. Any more immediate explosions might cause quite a ripple of thought. McClure was gabbling wildly on. Course, you don't have to be examined immediately. You'll want to rest. I'll put you up at my place. Thanks, I don't feel up to being probed and pulled. Plenty of time in a week or so. They drew up before a house and climbed out. You'll want sleep, naturally. I've been asleep for centuries. Be glad to stay awake. I'm not a bit tired. Good. McClure let them into the house. He headed for the drink bar. A drink will fix us up. You have one, said Lantry. Later for me. I just want to sit down. By all means, sit. McClure mixed himself a drink. He looked around the room, looked at Lantry, paused a moment with the drink in his hand, tilted his head to one side, and put his tongue in his cheek. Then he shrugged and stirred the drink. He walked slowly to a chair and sat, sipping the drink quietly. He seemed to be listening for something. There are cigarettes on the table, he said. Thanks. Lantry took one and lit it and smoked it. He did not speak for some time. Lantry thought, I'm taking this all too easily. Maybe I should kill and run. He's the only one that has found me yet. Perhaps this is all a trap. Perhaps we're simply sitting here waiting for the police. Or whatever in hell they use for police these days. He looked at McClure. No, they weren't waiting for the police. They were waiting for something else. McClure didn't speak. He looked at Lantry's face, and he looked at Lantry's hands. He looked at Lantry's chest a long time with easy quietness. He sipped his drink. He looked at Lantry's feet. Finally, he said, Where'd you get the clothing? I asked someone for clothes, and they gave these things to me. Darn nice of them. You'll find that's how we are in this world. All you have to do is ask. McClure shut up again. His eyes moved. Only his eyes and nothing else. Once or twice he lifted his drink. A little clock ticked somewhere in the distance. Tell me about yourself, Mr. Lantry. Nothing much to tell. You're modest. Hardly. You know about the past. I know nothing of the future. Or I should say, today and day before yesterday. You don't learn much in a coffin. McClure did not speak. He suddenly sat forward in his chair and then leaned back and shook his head. They'll never suspect me, thought Lantry. They aren't superstitious. They simply can't believe in a dead man walking. Therefore, I'll be safe. I'll keep putting off the physical checkup. They're polite. They won't force me. Then I'll work it so I can get to Mars. After that, the tombs. In my own good time and the plan. God, how simple. How naive these people are. McClure sat across the room for 5 minutes. A coldness had come over him. The color was very slowly going from his face as one sees the color of medicine vanishing as one presses the bulb at the top of a dropper. He leaned forward, saying nothing, and offered another cigarette to Lantry. Thanks. Lantry took it. McClure sat deeply back into his easy chair, his knees folded one over the other. He did not look at Lantry, and yet somehow he did. The feeling of weighing and balancing returned. McClure was like a tall, thin master of hounds listening for something that nobody else could hear. There are little silver whistles you can blow that only dogs can hear. McClure seemed to be listening acutely, sensitively for such an invisible whistle, listening with his eyes and with his half-opened, dry mouth and with his aching, breathing nostrils. Lantry sucked the cigarette, sucked the cigarette, sucked the cigarette, and as many times blew out, blew out, blew out. McClure was like some lean, red, shagged hound, listening and listening with a slick slide of eyes to one side, with an apprehension in that hand that was so precisely microscopic that one only sensed it, as one sensed the invisible whistle, with some part of the brain deeper than eyes or nostril or ear. McClure was all chemist's scale, all antennae. The room was so quiet the cigarette smoke made some kind of invisible noise rising to the ceiling. McClure was a thermometer, a chemist's scales, a listening hound, a litmus paper, an antennae, all these. Lantry did not move. Perhaps the feeling would pass. It had passed before. McClure did not move for a long while, and then, without a word, he nodded at the sherry decanter, and Lantry refused as silently. They sat looking, but not looking, at each other, again and away, again and away. McClure stiffened slowly. Lantry saw the color getting paler in those lean cheeks, and the hand tightening on the sherry glass, and a knowledge come at last to stay, never to go away, into the eyes. Lantry did not move. He could not. All of this was of such a fascination that he wanted only to see, to hear what would happen next. It was McClure's show from here on in. McClure said, "At first I thought it was the finest psychosis I have ever seen. I thought he's convinced himself, Lantry's convinced himself, he's quite insane. He's told himself to do all these little things." McClure talked as if in a dream, and continued talking and didn't stop. "I said to myself, he purposefully doesn't breathe through his nose. I watched your nostrils, Lantry. The little nostril hairs never once quivered in the last hour. That wasn't enough. It was a fact I filed. It wasn't enough. He breathes through his mouth, I said, on purpose. And then I gave you a cigarette, and you sucked and blew, sucked and blew. None of it ever came out your nose. I told myself, well, that's all right. He doesn't inhale. Is that terrible? Is that suspect? All in the mouth, all in the mouth. And then I looked at your chest. I watched. It never moved up or down. It did nothing. He's convinced himself, I said to myself. He's convinced himself about all this. He doesn't move his chest except slowly when he thinks you're not looking. That's what I told myself." The words went on in the silent room, not pausing, still in a dream. "And then I offered you a drink, but you don't drink, and I thought, he doesn't drink, I thought. Is that terrible? And I watched and watched you all this time. Lantry holds his breath. He's fooling himself. But now, yes, now, I understand it quite well. Now I know everything the way it is. Do you know how I know? I do not hear breathing in the room. I wait, and I hear nothing. There is no beat of heart or intake of lung. The room is so silent. Nonsense, one might say, but I know. At the incinerator, I know. There is a difference. You enter a room where a man is on a bed, and you know immediately whether he will look up and speak to you or whether he will not speak to you ever again. Laugh if you will, but one can tell. It is a subliminal thing. It is the whistle the dog hears when no human hears. It is the tick of a clock that has ticked so long one no longer notices. Something is in a room when a man lives in it. Something is not in the room when a man is dead in it. McClure shut his eyes for a moment. He put down his sherry glass. He waited a moment. He took up his cigarette and puffed it, and then put it down in a black tray. I am alone in this room, he said. Lantry did not move. You are dead. My mind does not know this. It is not a thinking thing. It is a thing of the senses and the subconscious. At first I thought, this man thinks he is dead, risen from the dead, a vampire. Is that not logical? Would not any man, buried as many centuries, raised in a superstitious, ignorant culture, think likewise of himself once risen from the tomb? Yes, that is logical. This man has hypnotized himself and fitted his bodily functions so that they would in no way interfere with his self-delusion, his great paranoia. He governs his breathing, he tells himself. I cannot hear my breathing, therefore I am dead. His inner mind censors the sound of breathing. He does not allow himself to eat or drink. These things he probably does in his sleep with part of his mind, hiding the evidences of this humanity from his
deluded mind at other times. McClure finished it. I was wrong. You are not insane. You are not deluding yourself, nor me. This is all very illogical and, I must admit, almost frightening. Does that make you feel good to think you frighten me? I have no label for you. You're a very odd man, Lantry. I'm glad to have met you. This will make an interesting report indeed. Is there anything wrong with me being dead? Said Lantry. Is it a crime? You must admit it's highly unusual. But still now, is it a crime? Asked Lantry. We have no crime, no criminal court. We want to examine you naturally to find out how you have happened. It is like that chemical which 1 minute is inert, the next is living cell. Who can say what happened to what? You are that impossibility. It is enough to drive a man quite insane. Will I be released when you are done fingering me? You will not be held. If you don't wish to be examined, you will not be. But I am hoping you will help by offering us your services. I might, said Lantry. But tell me, said McClure, what were you doing at the morgue? Nothing. I heard you talking when I came in. I was merely curious. You're lying. That is very bad, Mr. Lantry. The truth is far better. The truth is it not, that you are dead, and being the only one of your sort were lonely. Therefore you killed people to have company. How does that follow? McClure laughed. Logic, my dear fellow. Once I knew you were really dead a moment ago, really a vampire? Silly word. I tied you immediately to the incinerator blasts. Before that, there was no reason to connect you, but once the one piece fell into place, the fact that you were dead, then it was simple to guess your loneliness, your hate, your envy, all of the tawdry motivations of a walking corpse. It took only an instant then to see the incinerators blown to blazes, and then to think of you among the bodies at the morgue, seeking help, seeking friends and people like yourself to work with. You're too damn smart. Lantry was out of the chair. He was halfway to the other man when McClure rolled over and scuttled away, flinging the sherry decanter. With a great despair, Lantry realized that, like a damned idiot, he had thrown away his one chance to kill McClure. He should have done it earlier. It had been Lantry's one weapon, his safety margin. If people in a society never killed each other, they never suspected one another. You could walk up to any one of them and kill them. Come back here! Lantry threw the knife. McClure got behind a chair. The idea of flight, of protection, of fighting was still new to him. He had part of the idea, but there was still a bit of luck on Lantry's side if Lantry wanted to use it. Oh, no, said McClure, holding the chair between himself and the advancing man. You want to kill me. It's odd, but true. I can't understand it. You want to cut me with that knife or something like that, and it's up to me to prevent you from doing such an odd thing. I will kill you. Lantry let it slip out. He cursed himself. That was the worst possible thing to say. Lantry lunged across the chair, clutching at McClure. McClure was very logical. It won't do you any good to kill me, you know that. They wrestled and held each other in a wild, toppling shuffle. Tables fell over, scattering articles. You remember what happened in the morgue? I don't care, screamed Lantry. You didn't raise those dead, did you? I don't care, cried Lantry. Look here, said McClure reasonably. There will never be any more like you, ever. There's no use. Then I'll destroy all of you, screamed Lantry. And then what? You'll still be alone, with no more like you about. I'll go to Mars. They have tombs there. I'll find more like myself. No, said McClure. The executive order went through yesterday. All of the tombs are being deprived of their bodies. They'll be burned in the next week. They fell together to the floor. Lantry got his hands on McClure's throat. Please, said McClure. Do you see? You'll die. What do you mean? Cried Lantry. Once you kill all of us and you're alone, you'll die. The hate will die. The hate is what moves you, nothing else. That envy moves you, nothing else. You'll die inevitably. You're not immortal, you're not even alive, you're nothing but a moving hate. I don't care, screamed Lantry and began choking the man, beating his head with his fists, crouched on the defenseless body. McClure looked up at him with dying eyes. The front door opened. 2 men came in.
I say, said one of them. What's going on? A new game?
Lantry jumped back and began to run. Yes, a new game, said McClure, struggling up. Catch him and you win. The 2 men caught Lantry.
We win, they said.
Let me go, Lantry thrashed, hitting them across their faces, bringing blood. Hold him tight, cried McClure. They held him.
A rough game, what? One of them said. What do we do now?
The beetle hissed along the shining road. Rain fell out of the sky, and a wind rippled at the dark green, wet trees. And the beetle, his hands on the half-wheel, McClure was talking. His voice was a susurrant, a whispering, a hypnotic thing. The 2 other men sat in the back seat. Lantry sat, or rather lay, in the front seat, his head back, his eyes faintly opened, the glowing green light of the dash dial showing on his cheeks. His mouth was relaxed. He did not speak. McClure talked quietly and logically about life and moving, about death and not moving, about the sun and the great sun incinerator, about the emptied tomb yard, about hatred and how hate lived and made a clay man live and move, and how illogical it all was, it all was, it all was. One was dead, that was all. One did not try to be otherwise. The car whispered on the moving road. The rain spattered gently on the windshield. The men in the back seat conversed quietly. Where were they going? To the incinerator, of course. Cigarette smoke moved slowly up on the air, curling and tying into itself in gray loops and spirals. One was dead and must accept it. Lantry did not move. He was a marionette, the strings cut. There was only a tiny hatred in his heart, in his eyes like twin coals, feeble, glowing, fading. I am Poe, he thought. I am all that is left of Edgar Allan Poe. And I am all that is left of Ambrose Bierce. And all that is left of a man named Lovecraft. I am a gray night bat with sharp teeth. And I am a square black monolith monster. I am Osiris, and Baal, and Set. I am the Necronomicon, the Book of the Dead. I am the House of Usher, falling into flame. I am the Red Death. I am the man mortared into the catacomb with a cask of Amontillado. I am a dancing skeleton. I am a coffin, a shroud, a lightning bolt reflected in an old house window. I am an autumn empty tree. I am a rapping, flinging shutter. I am a yellowed volume turned by a claw hand. I am an organ played in an attic at midnight. I am a mask, a skull mask behind an oak tree on the last day of October. I am a poison apple bobbling in a water tub for child noses to bump at, for child teeth to snap. I am a black candle lighted before an inverted cross. I am a coffin lid, a sheet with eyes, a footstep on a black stairwell. I am Dunsany and Machen, and I am the legend of Sleepy Hollow. I am the monkey's paw, and I am the phantom rickshaw. I am the cat and the canary, the gorilla, the bat. I am the ghost of Hamlet's father on the castle wall. All of these things am I, and now these last things will be burned. While I lived, they still lived. While I moved and hated and existed, they still existed. I am all that remembers them. I am all of them that still goes on, and will not go on after tonight. Tonight, all of us, Poe and Bierce and Hamlet's father, we burn together. They will make a big heap of us, and burn us like a bonfire, like things of Guy Fawkes' day, gasoline, torchlight, cries, and all. And what a wailing will we put up! The world will be clean of us. But in our going we shall say, oh, what is the world likely to fear? Where is the dark imagination from the dark time, the thrill and the anticipation, the suspense of old October? Gone, never more to come again. Flattened and smashed and burned by the rocket people, by the incinerator people, destroyed and obliterated, to be replaced by doors that open and close, and lights that go on or off without fear. If only you could remember how we lived, what Halloween was to us, and what Poe was, and how we gloried in the dark morbidities. One more drink, dear friends, of Amontillado before the burning. All of this, all exists but in one last brain on earth. A whole world dying tonight. One more drink, pray. Here we are, said McClure. The incinerator was brightly lighted. There was quiet music nearby. McClure got out of the Beetle, came around to the other side. He opened the door. Lantry simply lay there. The talking and the logical talking had slowly drained him of life. He was no more than wax now, with a small glow in his eyes. This future world, how the men talked to you, how logically they reasoned away your life, they wouldn't believe in him. The force of their disbelief froze him. He could not move his arms or his legs. He could only mumble senselessly, coldly, eyes flickering. McClure and the two others helped him out of the car, put him in a golden box, and rolled him on a roller table into the warm, glowing interior of the building. I am Edgar Allan Poe. I am Ambrose Bierce. I am Halloween. I am a coffin, a shroud, a monkey's paw, a phantom, a vampire. Yes, yes, said McClure quietly over him. I know, I know. The table glided. The walls swung over him, and by him the music played. You're dead. You are logically dead. I am Usher. I am the maelstrom. I am the MS found in a bottle. I am the pit and I am the pendulum. I am the telltale heart. I am the raven. Nevermore, nevermore. Yes, said McClure as they walked softly. I know. I am in the catacomb, cried Lantry. Yes, the catacomb, said the walking man over him. I am being chained to a wall, and there's no bottle of Amontillado here, cried Lantry weakly, eyes closed. Yes, someone said. There was movement. The flame door opened. Now someone is mortaring up the cell, closing me in. Yes, I know, a whisper. The golden box slid into the flame lock. I'm being walled in. A very good joke indeed. Let us be gone. A wild scream and much laughter. We know. We understand. The inner flame lock opened. The golden coffin shot forth into flame. For the love of God, Montresor! For the love of God! End of Pillar of Fire by Ray Bradbury. The Creatures That Time Forgot by Ray Bradbury. During the night, Sim was born. He lay wailing upon the cold cave stones. His blood beat through him 1,000 pulses each minute. He grew steadily. Into his mouth his mother with feverish hands put the food. The nightmare of living was begun. Almost instantly at birth his eyes grew alert, and then, without half understanding why, filled with bright, insistent terror. He gagged upon the food, choked and wailed. He looked about blindly. There was a thick fog. It cleared. The outlines of the cave appeared, and a man loomed up, insane and wild and terrible. A man with a dying face, old, withered by winds, baked like adobe in the heat. The man was crouched in a far corner of the cave, his eyes whitening to one side of his face, listening to the far wind trumpeting up above on the frozen night planet. Sim's mother, trembling now and again, staring at the man, fed Sim pebble fruits, valley grasses, and ice nipples, broken from the cavern entrances, and eating, eliminating, eating again, He grew larger, larger. The man in the corner of the cave was his father. The man's eyes were all that was alive in his face. He held a crude stone dagger in his withered hands, and his jaw hung loose and senseless. Then, with a widening focus, Sim saw the old people sitting in the tunnel beyond this living quarter. And as he watched, they began to die. Their agonies filled the cave. They melted like waxen images. Their faces collapsed inward on their sharp bones. Their teeth protruded. 1 minute their faces were mature, fairly smooth, alive, electric. The next minute, a desiccation and burning away of their flesh occurred. Sim thrashed in his mother's grasp. She held him. "No, no," she soothed him quietly, earnestly, looking to see if this too would cause her husband to rise again. With a soft, swift padding of naked feet, Sim's father ran across the cave. Sim's mother screamed. Sim felt himself torn loose from her grasp. He fell upon the stones, rolling, shrieking with his new, moist lungs. The webbed face of his father jerked over him. The knife was poised. It was like one of those prenatal nightmares he had had while still in his mother's flesh. In the next few blazing, impossible instants, questions flicked through his brain. The knife was high, suspended, ready to destroy him. But the whole question of life in this cave, the dying people, the withering and the insanity surged through Sim's new small head. How was it that he understood? A newborn child. Can a newborn child think, see, understand, interpret? No, it was wrong. It was impossible. Yet it was happening. To him. He had been alive an hour now, and in the next instant, perhaps dead. His mother flung herself upon the back of his father and beat down the weapon. Sim caught the terrific backwash of emotion from both their conflicting minds. "Let me kill him!" shouted the father, breathing harshly, sobbingly. "What has he to live for?" "No, no!" insisted the mother, and her body, frail and old as it was, stretched across the huge body of the father, tearing at his weapon. "He must live. There may be a future for him. He may live longer than us and be young." The father fell back against a stone crib. Lying there, staring, eyes glittering, Sim saw another figure inside that stone crib. A girl child, quietly feeding itself, moving its delicate hands to procure food. His sister. The mother wrenched the dagger from her husband's grasp, stood up, weeping and pushing back her cloud of stiffening gray hair. Her mouth trembled and jerked. "I'll kill you," she said, glaring down at her husband. "Leave my children alone." The old man spat tiredly, bitterly, and looked vacantly into the stone crib at the little girl. "1/8 of her life's over already," he gasped, "and she doesn't know it. What's the use?" As Sim watched, his own mother seemed to shift and take a tortured, smoke-like form. The thin, bony face broke out into a maze of wrinkles. She was shaken with pain and had to sit by him, shuddering and cuddling the knife to her shriveled breasts. She, like the old people in the tunnel, was aging, dying. Sim cried steadily. Everywhere he looked was horror. A mind came to meet his own. Instinctively, he glanced toward the stone crib. Dark, his sister, returned his glance. Their minds brushed like straying fingers. He relaxed somewhat. He began to learn. The father sighed, shut his lids down over his green eyes. "Feed the child," he said exhaustedly. "Hurry. It is almost dawn, and it is our last day of living, woman. Feed him. Make him grow." Sim quieted, and images out of the terror floated to him. This was a planet next to the sun. The nights burned with cold. The days were like torches of fire. It was a violent, impossible world.
The people lived in the cliffs to escape the incredible ice and the day of flame. Only at dawn and sunset was the air breath-sweet, flower-strong, and then the cave peoples brought their children out into a stony, barren valley. At dawn, the ice thawed into creeks and rivers. At sunset, the day fires died and cooled. In the intervals of even, livable temperature, the people lived, ran, played, loved, free of the caverns. All life on the planet jumped, burst into life. Plants grew instantly. Birds were flung like pellets across the sky. Smaller-legged animal life rushed frantically through the rocks. Everything tried to get its living down in the brief hour of respite. It was an unbearable planet. Sim understood this, a matter of hours after birth. Racial memory bloomed in him. He would live his entire life in the caves, with 2 hours a day outside. Here, in stone channels of air, he would talk incessantly with his people. Sleep never. Think, and lie upon his back, dreaming, but never sleeping. And he would live exactly 8 days. The violence of this thought evacuated his bowels. 8 days. 8 short days. It was wrong, impossible, but a fact. Even while in his mother's flesh, some racial knowledge had told him he was being formed rapidly, shaped, and propelled out swiftly. Birth was quick as a knife. Childhood was over in a flash. Adolescence was a sheet of lightning. Manhood was a dream. Maturity a myth. Old age, an inescapably quick reality. Death, a swift certainty. 8 days from now he'd stand half-blind, withering, dying, as his father now stood, staring uselessly at his own wife and child. This day was an 1/8 part of his total life. He must enjoy every second of it. He must search his parents' thoughts for knowledge, because in a few hours they'd be dead. This was so impossibly unfair. Was this all of life? In his prenatal state, hadn't he dreamed of long lives, valleys not of blasted stone, but green foliage and temperate clime? Yes! And if he had dreamed, then there must be truth in the visions. How could he seek and find the long life? Where? And how could he accomplish a life mission that huge and depressing in 8 short days? How had his people gotten into such a condition? As if at a button pressed, he saw an image. Metal seeds, blown across space from a distant green world, fighting with long flames, crashing on this bleak planet. From their shattered hulls tumbled men and women. When? Long ago. 10,000 days. The crash victims hid in the cliffs from the sun. Fire, ice, and floods washed away the wreckage of the huge metal seeds. The victims were shaped and beaten like iron upon a forge. Solar radiations drenched them. Their pulses quickened. 200, 500, 1,000 beats a minute. Their skins thickened. Their blood changed. Old age came rushing. Children were born in the caves. Swifter, swifter, swifter the process. Like all this world's wildlife, the men and women from the crash lived and died in a week, leaving children to do likewise. So this is life, thought Sim. It was not spoken in his mind, for he knew no words. He knew only images. Old memory, an awareness, a telepathy that could penetrate flesh, rock, metal. So I'm the 5,000th in a long line of futile sons. What can I do to save myself from dying 8 days from now? Is there escape? His eyes widened. Another image came to focus. Beyond this valley of cliffs, on a low mountain, lay a perfect, unscarred metal seed. A metal ship, not rusted or touched by the avalanches. The ship was deserted, whole, intact. It was the only ship of all these that had crashed that was still a unit, still usable. But it was so far away. There was no one in it to help
This ship, on the far side of the mountain, was the destiny toward which he would grow. There was his only hope of escape. His mind flexed. In this cliff, deep down in a confinement of solitude, worked a handful of scientists. To these men, when he was old enough and wise enough, he must go. They too dreamed of escape, of long life, of green valleys and temperate weathers. They too stared longingly at that distant ship upon its high mountain, its metal so perfect it did not rust or age. The cliff groaned. Sim's father lifted his eroded, lifeless face. "Dawn's coming," he said. Morning relaxed the mighty granite cliff muscles. It was the time of the avalanche. The tunnels echoed to running bare feet. Adults, children, pushed with eager, hungry eyes toward the outside dawn. From far out, Sim heard a rumble of rock, a scream, a silence. Avalanches fell into valley. Stones that had been biding their time, not quite ready to fall, for 1,000,000 years, let go their bulks. And where they had begun their journey as single boulders, they smashed upon the valley floor, in 1,000 shrapnels and friction-heated nuggets. Every morning at least one person was caught in the downpour. The cliff people dared the avalanches. It added one more excitement to their lives, already too short, too headlong, too dangerous. Sim felt himself seized up by his father. He was carried brusquely down the tunnel for 1,000 yards to where the daylight appeared. There was a shining, insane light in his father's eyes. Sim could not move. He sensed what was going to happen. Behind his father, his mother hurried, bringing with her the little sister, Dark. "Wait, be careful," she cried to her husband. Sim felt his father crouch, listening. High on the cliff was a tremor, a shivering. "Now!" bellowed his father and leaped out. An avalanche fell down at them. Sim had accelerated impressions of plunging walls, dust, confusion. His mother screamed. There was a jolting, a plunging. With one last step, Sim's father hurried him forward into the day. The avalanche thundered behind him. The mouth of the cave where Mother and Dark stood back out of the way was choked with rubble and 2 boulders that weighed 100 pounds each. The storm thunder of the avalanche passed away to a trickle of sand. Sim's father burst out into laughter. "Made it! By the gods! Made it alive!" And he looked scornfully at the cliff and spat. "Pah!" Mother and Sister Dark struggled through the rubble. She cursed her husband. "Fool! You might have killed Sim." "I may yet," retorted the father. Sim was not listening. He was fascinated with the remains of an avalanche afront of the next tunnel. A blood stain trickled out from under a rise of boulders, soaking into the ground. There was nothing else to be seen. Someone else had lost the game. Dark ran ahead on lithe, supple feet, naked and certain. The valley air was like a wine filtered between mountains. The heaven was a restive blue, not the pale, scorched atmosphere of full day, nor the bloated, bruised black purple of night, a riot with sickly, shining stars. This was a tide pool, a place where waves of varying and violent temperatures struck, receded. Now the tide pool was quiet, cool, and its life moved abroad. Laughter. Far away, Sim heard it. Why laughter? How could any of his people find time for laughing? Perhaps later he would discover why. The valley suddenly blushed with impulsive color. Plant life, thawing in the precipitant dawn, shoved out from most unexpected sources. It flowed as you watched. Pale green tendrils appeared on scoured rocks. Seconds later, ripe globes of fruit twitched upon the blade tips. Father gave Sim over to Mother and harvested the momentary volatile crop, thrust scarlet, blue, yellow fruits into a fur sack which hung at his waist. Mother tugged at the moist new grasses, laid them on Sim's tongue. His senses were being honed to a fine edge. He stored knowledge thirstily. He understood love, marriage, customs, anger, pity, rage, selfishness, shadings and subtleties, realities and reflections. One thing suggested another. The sight of green plant life whirled his mind like a gyroscope, seeking balance in a world where lack of time for explanations made a mind seek and interpret on its own. The soft burden of food gave him knowledge of his system, of energy, of movement. Like a bird newly cracking its way from a shell, he was almost a unit, complete, all-knowing. Heredity had done all this for him. He grew excited with his ability. They walked, mother, father, and the two children, smelling the smells, watching the birds bounce from wall to wall of the valley like scurrying pebbles. And suddenly the father said a strange thing. "Remember?" Remember what? Sim lay cradled. Was it any effort for them to remember when they'd lived only 7 days? The husband and wife looked at each other. "Was it only 3 days ago?" said the woman, her body shaking, her eyes closing to think. "I can't believe it. It is so unfair." She sobbed, then drew her hand across her face and bit her parched lips. The wind played at her gray hair. "Now it is my turn to cry. An hour ago it was you." "An hour is half a life." "Come." She took her husband's arm. "Let us look at everything, because it will be our last looking." "The sun'll be up in a few minutes," said the old man. "We must turn back now." "Just one more moment," pleaded the woman. "The sun will catch us." "Let it catch me, then." "You don't mean that." "I mean nothing, nothing at all," cried the woman. The sun was coming fast. The green in the valley burnt away. Searing wind blasted from over the cliffs. Far away where sunbolts hammered battlements of cliff, the huge stone faces shook their contents. Those avalanches not already powdered down were now released and fell like mantles. "Dark!" shouted the father. The girl sprang over the warm floor of the valley, answering, her hair a black flag behind her. Hands full of green fruits, she joined them. The sun rimmed the horizon with flame, the air convulsed dangerously with it, and whistled. The cave people bolted, shouting, picking up their fallen children, bearing vast loads of fruit and grass with them back to their deep hideouts. In moments, the valley was bare, except for one small child someone had forgotten. He was running far out on the flatness, but he was not strong enough, and the engulfing heat was drifting down from the cliffs even as he was half across the valley. Flowers were burnt into effigies, grasses sucked back into rocks like singed snakes. Flower seeds whirled and fell in the sudden furnace blast of wind, sown far into gullies and crannies, ready to blossom at sunset tonight, and then go to seed and die again. Sim's father watched that child running, alone, out on the floor of the valley. He and his wife and Dark and Sim were safe in the mouth of their tunnel. "He'll never make it," said father. "Do not watch him, woman. It is not a good thing to watch." They turned away, all except Sim, whose eyes had caught a glint of metal far away. His heart hammered in him, and his eyes blurred. Far away, atop a low mountain, one of those metal seeds from space reflected a dazzling ripple of light. It was like one of his intra-embryo dreams fulfilled. A metal space seed, intact, undamaged, lying on a mountain. There was his future. There was his hope for survival. There was where he would go in a few days, when he was, strange thought, a grown man. The sun plunged into the valley like molten lava. The little running child screamed. The sun burned, and the screaming stopped. Sim's mother walked painfully with sudden age down the tunnel, paused, reached up, broke off 2 last icicles that had formed during the night. She handed one to her husband, kept the other. "We will drink one last toast, to you, to the children." "To you," he nodded to her. "To the children." They lifted the icicles. The warmth melted the ice down into their thirsty mouths.
All day the sun seemed to blaze and erupt into the valley. Sim could not see it, but the vivid pictorials in his parents' minds were sufficient evidence of the nature of the day fire. The light ran like mercury, sizzling and roasting the caves, poking inward, but never penetrating deeply enough. It lighted the caves. It made the hollows of the cliff comfortably warm. Sim fought to keep his parents young, but no matter how hard he fought with mind and image, they became like mummies before him. His father seemed to dissolve from one stage of oldness to another. This is what will happen to me soon, thought Sim in terror. Sim grew upon himself. He felt the digestive, eliminatory movements of his body. He was fed every minute. He was continually swallowing, feeding. He began to fit words to images and processes. Such a word was love. It was not an abstraction, but a process, a stir of breath, a smell of morning air, a flutter of heart, the curve of arm holding him, the look in the suspended face of his mother. He saw the processes, then searched behind her suspended face, and there was the word in her brain ready to use. His throat prepared to speak. Life was pushing him, rushing him along toward oblivion. He sensed the expansion of his fingernails, the adjustments of his cells, the profusion of his hair, the multiplication of his bones and sinew, the grooving of the soft pale wax of his brain at birth as clear as a circle of ice, innocent, unmarked, was an instant later, as if hit with a thrown rock, cracked and marked, and patterned in a million crevices of thought and discovery. His sister Dark ran in and out with other little hothouse children, forever eating. His mother trembled over him, not eating. She had no appetite. Her eyes were webbed shut. "Sunset," said his father at last. The day was over. The light faded. A wind sounded. His mother arose. "I want to see the outside world once more. Just once more." She stared blindly, shivering. His father's eyes were shut. He lay against the wall. "I cannot rise," he whispered faintly. "I cannot." "Dark," the mother croaked. The girl came running. "Here." And Sim was handed to the girl. "Hold to Sim, Dark. Feed him. Care for him." She gave Sim one last fondling touch. Dark said not a word, holding Sim, her great green eyes shining wetly. "Go now," said the mother. "Take him out into the sunset time. Enjoy yourselves. Pick foods, eat, play." Dark walked away without looking back. Sim twisted in her grasp, looking over her shoulder with unbelieving, tragic eyes. He cried out and somehow summoned from his lips the first word of his existence. "Why?" He saw his mother stiffen. "The child spoke." "Aye," said his father. "Did you hear what he said?" "I heard," said the mother quietly. The last thing Sim saw of his living parents was his mother, weakly, swayingly, slowly moving across the floor to lie beside her silent husband. That was the last time he ever saw them move. The night came and passed and then started the next day. The bodies of all those who had died during the night were carried in a funeral procession to the top of a small hill. The procession was long, the bodies numerous. Dark walked in the process, holding the newly walking Sim by one hand. Only an hour before dawn, Sim had learned to walk. At the top of the hill, Sim saw once again the far-off metal seed. Nobody ever looked at it or spoke of it. Why? Was there some reason? Was it a mirage? Why did they not run toward it, worship it, try to get to it, and fly away into space? The funeral words were spoken. The bodies were placed upon the ground where the sun, in a few minutes, would cremate them.
The procession then turned and ran down the hill, eager to have their few minutes of free time running and playing and laughing in the sweet air. Dark and Sim, chattering like birds, feeding among the rocks, exchanged what they knew of life. He was in his second day, she in her third. They were driven, as always, by the mercurial speed of their lives. Another piece of his life opened wide. 50 young men ran down from the cliffs, holding sharp stones and rock daggers in their thick hands. Shouting, they ran off toward distant black, low lines of small rock cliffs. War! The thought stood in Sim's brain. It shocked and beat at him. These men were running to fight, to kill, over there in those small black cliffs where other people lived. But why? Wasn't life short enough without fighting, killing? From a great distance he heard the sound of conflict, and it made his stomach cold. Why, Dark? Why? Dark didn't know. Perhaps they would understand tomorrow. Now there was the business of eating to sustain and support their lives. Watching Dark was like seeing a lizard forever flickering its pink tongue, forever hungry. Pale children ran on all sides of them. One beetle-like boy scuttled up the rocks, knocking Sim aside to take from him a particularly luscious red berry he had found growing under an outcrop. The child ate hastily of the fruit before Sim could gain his feet. Then Sim hurled himself unsteadily. The two of them fell in a ridiculous jumble, rolling, until Dark pried them squalling apart. Sim bled. A part of him stood off like a god and said, "This should not be. Children should not be this way. It is wrong." Dark slapped the little intruding boy away. "Get on," she cried. "What's your name, bad one?" "Cheon," laughed the boy. "Cheon, Cheon, Cheon." Sim glared at him with all the ferocity in his small, unskilled features. He choked. This was his enemy. It was as if he had waited for an enemy of person as well as scene. He had already understood the avalanches, the heat, the cold, the shortness of life. But these were things of places, of scene. Mute, extravagant manifestations of unthinking nature, not motivated save by gravity and radiation. Here now, in this stridulent Cheon, he recognized a thinking enemy. Cheon darted off, turned at a distance, tauntingly, crying, "Tomorrow I will be big enough to kill you!" And he vanished around a rock. More children ran, giggling by Sim. Which of them would be friends, enemies? How could friends and enemies come about in this impossible quick lifetime? There was no time to make either, was there? Dark, as if knowing his thoughts, drew him away. As they searched for desired foods, she whispered fiercely in his ear, "Enemies are made over things like stolen foods. Gifts of long grasses make friends. Enemies come, too, from opinions and thoughts. In 5 seconds, you've made an enemy for life. Life's so short, enemies must be made quickly." And she laughed with an irony strange for one so young, who was growing older before her rightful time. "You must fight to protect yourself. Others, superstitious ones, will try killing you. There is a belief, a ridiculous belief, that if one kills another, the murderer partakes of life energy of the slain, and therefore will live an extra day. You see, as long as that is believed, you're in danger." But Sim was not listening. Bursting from a flock of delicate girls who tomorrow would be tall, quieter, and who day after that would gain breasts and the next day take husbands, Sim caught sight of one girl whose hair was a violet-blue flame. She ran past, brushing Sim. Their bodies touched. Her eyes, white as silver coins, shone at him. He knew then that he had found a friend, a love, a wife, one who'd a week from now lie with him atop the funeral pyre, as sunlight undressed their flesh from bone. Only the glance, but it held them in mid-motion 1 instant. "Your name!" he shouted after her. "Light!" she called laughingly back. "I'm Sim," he answered, confused and bewildered. "Sim," she repeated it, flashing on. "I'll remember." Dark nudged his ribs. "Here, eat," she said to the distracted boy. "Eat, or you'll never get big enough to catch her." From nowhere, Cheon appeared, running by. "Light,"
he mocked, dancing malevolently along and away. Light, I'll remember your light, too. Dark stood tall and reed slender, shaking her dark ebony clouds of hair sadly. I see your life before you, little Sim. You'll need weapons soon to fight for this light one. Now hurry, the sun's coming. They ran back to the caves. 1/4 of his life was over. Babyhood was gone. He was now a young boy. Wild rains lashed the valley at nightfall. He watched new river channels cut in the valley, out past the mountain of the metal seed. He stored the knowledge for later use. Each night there was a new river, a bed newly cut. What's beyond the valley? Wondered Sim. No one's ever been beyond it, explained Dark. All who tried to reach the plain were frozen to death or burnt. The only land we know's within half an hour's run. Half an hour out and half an hour back. No one has ever reached the metal seed, then, Dark scoffed. The scientists, they try, silly fools. They don't know enough to stop. It's no use. It's too far. The scientists. The word stirred him. He had almost forgotten the vision he had short hours after birth. His voice was eager. Where are the scientists? He demanded. Dark looked away from him. I wouldn't tell you if I knew. They'd kill you, experimenting. I don't want you joining them. Live your life. Don't cut it in half trying to reach that silly metal thing on the mountain. I'll find out where they are from someone else then. No one will tell you. They hate the scientists. You'll have to find them on your own, and then what? Will you save us? Yes, save us, little boy. Her face was sullen. Already half her life was gone. Her breasts were beginning to shape. Tomorrow she must divine how best to live her youth, her love. And she knew no way to fully plumb the depths of passion in so short of a space. We can't sit and talk and eat, he protested, and nothing else. There's always love, she retorted acidly. It helps one forget. Gods, yes. She spat it out. Love. Sam ran through the tunnels, seeking. Sometimes he half imagined where the scientists were. But then a flood of angry thought from those around him, when he asked the direction to the scientist's cave, washed over him in confusion and resentment. After all, it was the scientist's fault that they had been placed upon this terrible world. Sim flinched under the bombardment of oaths and curses. Quietly he took his seat in a central chamber with the children to listen to the grown men talk. This was the time of education, the time of talking. No matter how he chafed at delay, or how great his impatience, even though life slipped fast from him and death approached like a black meteor, he knew his mind needed knowledge. Tonight, then, was the night of school. But he sat uneasily. Only 5 more days of life. Cheon sat across from Sim, his thin-mouthed face arrogant. Light appeared between the two. The last few hours had made her firmer-footed, gentler, taller. Her hair shone brighter. She smiled as she sat beside Sim, ignoring Cheon, and Cheon became rigid at this and ceased eating. The dialogue crackled, filled the room, swift as heartbeats, 1,000, 2,000 words a minute. Sim learned, his head filled. He did not shut his eyes, but lapsed into a kind of dreaming that was almost intra-embryotic in lassitude and drowsy vividness. In the faint background the words were spoken, and they wove a tapestry of knowledge in his head. He dreamed of green meadows free of stones, all grass, round and rolling and rushing easily toward a dawn with no taint of freezing, merciless cold or smell of boiled rock or scorched monument. He walked across the green meadow. Overhead the metal seeds flew by in a heaven that was a steady, even temperature. Things were slow, slow, slow. Birds lingered upon gigantic trees that took 100, 200, 5,000 days to grow. Everything remained in its place. The birds did not flicker nervously at a hint of sun, nor did the trees suck back frightenedly when a ray of sunlight poured over them. In this dream people strolled. They rarely ran. The heart rhythm of them was evenly languid, not jerking and insane.
Their kisses were long and lingering, not the parched mouthings and twitchings of lovers who had 8 days to live. The grass remained, and did not burn away in torches. The dream people talked always of tomorrow and living and not tomorrow and dying. It all seemed so familiar that when Sim felt someone take his hand, he thought it simply another part of the dream. Light's hand lay inside his own. "Dreaming?" she asked. "Yes. Things are balanced, our minds, to even things, to balance the unfairness of our living, go back in on ourselves, to find what there is that is good to see." He beat his hand against the stone floor again and again. "It does not make things fair. I hate it. It reminds me that there is something better, something I have missed. Why can't we be ignorant? Why can't we live and die without knowing that this is an abnormal living?" And his breath rushed harshly from his half-open, constricted mouth. "There is purpose in everything," said Light. "This gives us purpose, makes us work, plan, try to find a way." His eyes were hot emeralds in his face. "I walked up a hill of grass, very slowly," he said. "The same hill of grass I walked an hour ago?" asked Light. "Perhaps. Close enough to it. The dream is better than the reality." He flexed his eyes, narrowed them. "I watched people, and they did not eat. Or talk? Or talk either. And we are always eating, always talking. Sometimes those people in the dream sprawled with their eyes shut, not moving a muscle." As Light stared down into his face, a terrible thing happened. He imagined her face blackening, wrinkling, twisting into knots of agedness. The hair blew out like snow about her ears. The eyes were like discolored coins caught in a web of lashes. Her teeth sank away from her lips. The delicate fingers hung like charred twigs from her atrophied wrists. Her beauty was consumed and wasted, even as he watched. And when he seized her in terror, he cried out, for he imagined his own hand corroded, and he choked back a cry. "Sim, what's wrong?" The saliva in his mouth dried at the taste of the words. 5 more days. "The scientists," Sim started. Who'd spoken? In the dim light, a tall man talked. "The scientists crashed us on this world, and now we have wasted thousands of lives and time. It's no use, it's no use. Tolerate them, but give them none of your time. You only live once, remember." Where were these hated scientists? Now, after the learning, the time of talking, he was ready to find them. Now at least he knew enough to begin his fight for freedom. For the ship. "Sim, where are you going?" But Sim was gone. The echo of his running feet died away down a shaft of polished stone. It seemed that half the night was wasted. He blundered into a dozen dead ends. Many times he was attacked by the insane young men who wanted his life energy. Their superstitious ravings echoed after him. The gashes of their hungry fingernails covered his body. He found what he was looking for. A half-dozen men gathered in a small basalt cave, deep down in the cliff lode. On a table before them lay objects which, though unfamiliar, struck harmonious chords in Sim. The scientists worked in sets, old men doing important work, young men learning, asking questions. And at their feet were 3 small children. They were a process. Every 8 days there was an entirely new set of scientists working on any one problem. The amount of work done was terribly inadequate. They grew old, fell dead just when they were beginning their creative period. The creative time of any one individual was perhaps a matter of 12 hours out of his entire span. 3/4 of one's life was spent learning, a brief interval of creative power, then senility, insanity, death. The men turned as Sim entered. "Don't tell me we have a recruit," said the eldest of them. "I don't believe it," said another, younger one. "Chase him away. He's probably one of those warmongers." No, objected the elder one, moving with little shuffles of his bare feet toward Sim. Come in, boy." He had friendly eyes,
slow eyes, unlike those of the swift inhabitants of the upper caves. Gray and quiet. "What do you want?" Sim hesitated, lowered his head, unable to meet the quiet, gentle gaze. "I want to live," he whispered. The old man laughed quietly. He touched Sim's shoulder. "Are you a new breed? Are you sick?" he queried of Sim, half seriously. "Why aren't you playing? Why aren't you readying yourself for the time of love and marriage and children? Don't you know that tomorrow night you'll be an adolescent? Don't you realize that if you are not careful, you'll miss all of life?" He stopped. Sim moved his eyes back and forth with each query. He blinked at the instruments on the tabletop. "Shouldn't I be here?" he asked, naively. "Certainly," roared the old man sternly. "But it's a miracle you are. We've had no volunteers from the rank and file for 1,000 days. We've had to breed our own scientists. A closed unit. Count us. 6. 6 men and 3 children. Are we not overwhelming?" The old man spat upon the stone floor. "We ask for volunteers, and the people shout back at us. Get someone else, or we have no time." "And you know why they say that?" "No." Sim flinched. "Because they're selfish. They'd like to live longer, yes, but they know that anything they do cannot possibly ensure their own lives any extra time. It might guarantee longer life to some future offspring of theirs, but they won't give up their love, their brief youth, give up one interval of sunset or sunrise." Sim leaned against the table earnestly. "I understand." "You do?" The old man stared at him blindly. He sighed and slapped the child's thigh gently. "Yes, of course you do. It's too much to expect anyone to understand anymore. You're rare." The others moved in around Sim and the old man. "I am Dink. Tomorrow night court here will be in my place. I'll be dead by then. And the night after that someone else will be in court's place. And then you, if you work and believe. But first I give you a chance. Return to your playmates if you want. There is someone you love? Return to her. Life is short. Why should you care for the unborn to come? You have a right to youth. Go now if you want, because if you stay you'll have no time for anything but working and growing old and dying at your work. But it is good work. Well?" Sim looked at the tunnel. From a distance the wind roared and blew. The smells of cooking and the patter of naked feet sounded, and the laughter of lovers was an increasingly good thing to hear. He shook his head impatiently, and his eyes were wet. "I will stay," he said. The 3rd night and 3rd day passed. It was the 4th night. Sim was drawn into their living. He learned about that metal seed upon the top of the far mountain. He heard of the original seeds, things called ships, that crashed, and how the survivors hid and dug in the cliffs, grew old swiftly, and in their scrabbling to barely survive, forgot all science. Knowledge of mechanical things had no chance of survival in such a volcanic civilization. There was only now for each human. Yesterday didn't matter. Tomorrow stared them vividly in their very faces. But somehow the radiations that had forced their aging had also induced a kind of telepathic communication whereby philosophies and impressions were absorbed by the newborn. Racial memory, growing instinctively, preserved memories of another time. "Why don't we go to that ship on the mountain?" asked Sim. "It is too far. We would need protection from the sun," explained Dink. "Have you tried to make protection?" "Salves and ointments, suits of stone and birdwing, and, recently, crude metals. None of which worked. In 10,000 more lifetimes perhaps we'll have made a metal in which will flow cool water to protect us on the march to the ship. But we work so slowly, so blindly. This morning, mature, I took up my instruments. Tomorrow, dying, I lay them down. What can one man do in one day? If we had 10,000 men, the problem would be solved. I will go to the ship, said Sim. Then you will die, said the old man. A silence had fallen on the room at Sim's words. Then the men stared at Sim. You are a very selfish boy. Selfish, cried Sim resentfully. The old man patted the air. Selfish in a way I like. You want to live longer. You'll do anything for that. You will try for the ship. But I tell you it is useless. Yet if you want to, I cannot stop you. At least you will not be like those among us who go to war for an extra few days of life. War? Asked Sim. How can there be war here? And a shudder ran through him. He did not understand. Tomorrow will be time enough for that, said Dink. Listen to me now. The night passed. It was morning. Light came shouting and sobbing down a corridor and ran full into his arms. She had changed again. She was older again, more beautiful. She was shaking, and she held to him. Sim, they're coming after you. Bare feet marched down the corridor, surged inward at the opening. Cheon stood grinning there, taller too, a sharp rock in either of his hands. Oh, there you are, Sim. Go away, cried Light savagely, whirling on him. Not until we take Sim with us, Cheon assured her. Then, smiling at Sim, if, that is, he is with us in the fight. Dink shuffled forward, his eye weakly fluttering, his bird-like hands fumbling in the air. Leave! He shrilled angrily. This boy is the scientist now. He works with us. Cheon ceased smiling. There is better work to be done. We go now to fight the people in the farthest cliffs. His eyes glittered anxiously. Of course, you will come with us, Sim. No, no! Light clutched at his arm. Sim patted her shoulder, then turned to Cheon. Why are you attacking these people? There are 3 extra days for those who go with us to fight. 3 extra days? Of living? Cheon nodded firmly. If we win, we live 11 days instead of 8. The cliffs they live in, something about the mineral in it. Think of it, Sim. 3 long, good days of life. Will you join us? Dink interrupted. Get along without him. Sim is my pupil. Cheon snorted. Go die, old man. By sunset tonight you'll be charred bone. Who are you to order us? We are young. We want to live longer. 11 days. The words were unbelievable to Sim. 11 days. Now he understood why there was war. Who wouldn't fight to have his life lengthened by almost half its total? So many more days of youth and love and seeing and living. Yes, why not indeed? 3 extra days, called Dink, stridently. If you live to enjoy them. If you're not killed in battle. If. You have never won, yet you have always lost. But this time, Cheon declared sharply, we'll win. Sim was bewildered. But we are all of the same ancestors. Why don't we all share the best cliffs? Cheon laughed and adjusted a sharp stone in his hand. Those who live in the best cliffs think they are better than us. That is always man's attitude when he has power. The cliffs there, besides, are smaller. There's room for only 300 people in them. 3 extra days. I'll go with you, Sim said to Cheon. Fine. Cheon was very glad. Much too glad at the decision. Dink gasped. Sim turned to Dink and Light. If I fight and win, I will be a half-mile closer to the ship, and I'll have 3 extra days in which to strive to reach the ship.
That seems the only thing for me to do. Dink nodded sadly. It is the only thing. I believe you. Go along now. Goodbye, said Sim. The old man looked surprised. Then he laughed as at a little joke on himself. That's right. I won't see you again, will I? Goodbye, then. And they shook hands. They went out, Cheon, Sim, and Light together, followed by the others, all children growing swiftly into fighting men. And the light in Cheon's eyes was not a good thing to see. Light went with him. She chose his rocks for him and carried them. She would not go back, no matter how he pleaded. The sun was just beyond the horizon, and they marched across the valley. Please, Light, go back. And wait for Cheon to return, she said. He plans that when you die I will be his mate. She shook out her unbelievable blue-white curls of hair defiantly. But I'll be with you. If you fall, I fall. Sim's face hardened. He was tall. The world had shrunk during the night. Children packs screamed by hilarious in their food searching, and he looked at them with alien wonder. Could it be only 4 days ago he had been like these? Strange. There was a sense of many days in his mind, as if he had really lived 1,000 days. There was a dimension of incident and thought so thick, so multicolored, so richly diverse in his head that it was not to be believed so much could happen in so short a time. The fighting men ran in clusters of 2 or 3. Sim looked ahead at the rising line of small, ebon cliffs. This, then, he said to himself, is my 4th day. And still I am no closer to the ship, or to anything. Not even... He heard the light tread of Light beside him. Not even to her who bears my weapons and picks me ripe berries. 1/2 of his life was gone. Or 1/3 of it, if he won this battle. If. He ran easily, lifting, letting fall his legs. This is the last day of my physical awareness. As I run, I feed. As I feed, I grow. And as I grow, I turn eyes to Light with a kind of dizzying vertigo. And she looks upon me with the same gentleness of thought. This is the day of our youth. Are we wasting it? Are we losing it on a dream? A folly? Distantly he heard laughter. As a child he'd questioned it. Now he understood laughter. This particular laughter was made of climbing high rocks and plucking the greenest blades and drinking the headiest vintage from the morning ices and eating of the rock fruits and tasting of young lips and new appetite. They neared the cliffs of the enemy. He saw the slender erectness of Light, the new surprise of her white breasts, the neck where, if you touched, you could time her pulse. The fingers which cupped in your own were animate and supple and never still. The Light snapped her head to one side. Look ahead, she cried. See what is to come. Look only ahead. He felt that they were racing by part of their lives, leaving their youth on the path side without so much as a glance. I am blind with looking at stones, he said, running. Find new stones, then. I see stones. His voice grew gentle as the palm of her hand. The landscape floated under him. Everything was like a fine wind, blowing dreamily. I see stones that make a ravine, that lies in a cool shadow where the stone berries are thick as tears. You touch a boulder and the berries fall in silent red avalanches, and the grass is very tender. I do not see it. She increased her pace, turning her head away. He saw the floss upon her neck, like the small moss that grows silvery and light on the cool side of pebbles, that stirs if you breathe the lightest breath upon it. He looked upon himself. His hands clenched as he heaved himself forward toward death. Already his hands were veined and youth swollen. They were the hands of a young boy whose fingers are made for touching, which are suddenly sensitive, and with more surface, and are nervous, and seem not a part of him, because they are so big for the slender lengths of his arms. His neck, through which the blood ached and pumped, was building out with age too, with tiny blue tendrils of veins embedded and flaring in it. Light handed him food to eat. "I am not hungry," he said. "Eat. Keep your mouth full," she commanded sharply, "so you will not talk to me this way." "If I could only kiss you," he pleaded. "Just one time." "After the battle, there may be time." "Gods!" he roared, anguished. "Who cares for battles?" Ahead of them, rocks hailed down, thudding. A man fell with his skull split wide. The war was begun. Light passed the weapons to him. They ran without another word until they entered the killing round. Then he spoke, not looking at her, his cheeks coloring. "Thank you," he said. She ducked as a slung stone shot by her head. "It was not an easy thing for me," she admitted. "Sim, be careful." The boulders began to roll in a synthetic avalanche from the battlements of the enemy. Only one thought was in his mind now. To kill, to lessen the life of someone else, so he could live. To gain a foothold here and live long enough to make a stab at the ship. He ducked, he weaved, he clutched stones and hurled them up. His left hand held a flat stone shield with which he diverted the swiftly plummeting rocks. There was a spatting sound everywhere. Light ran with him, encouraging him. 2 men dropped before him, slain, their breasts cleaved to the bone, their blood springing out in unbelievable founts. It was a useless conflict. Sim realized instantly how insane the venture was. They could never storm the cliff. A solid wall of rocks rained down. A dozen men dropped with shards of ebony in their brains. A half-dozen more showed drooping, broken arms. One screamed, and the up-thrust white joint of his knee was exposed as the flesh was pulled away by 2 successive blows of well-aimed granite. Men stumbled over one another. The muscles in his cheeks pulled tight, and he began to wonder why he had ever come. But his raised eyes as he danced from side to side, weaving and bobbing, sought always the cliffs. He wanted to live there so intensely. To have his chance. He would have to stick it out, but the heart was gone from him. Light screamed piercingly. Sim, his heart panicking, twisted and saw that her hand was loose at the wrist, with an ugly wound bleeding profusely on the back of the knuckles. She clamped it under her armpit to soothe the pain. The anger rose in him and exploded. In his fury, he raced forward, throwing his missiles with deadly accuracy. He saw a man topple and flail down, falling from one level to another of the caves, a victim of his shot. He must have been screaming, for his lungs were bursting open and closed, and his throat was raw, and the ground spun madly under his racing feet. The stone that clipped his head sent him reeling and plunging back. He ate sand. The universe dissolved into purple whirls. He could not get up. He lay and knew that this was his last day, his last time. The battle raged around him. Dimly he felt Light over him. Her hands cooled his head. She tried to drag him out of range, but he lay gasping and telling her to leave him. "Stop!" shouted a voice. The whole war seemed to give pause. "Retreat!" commanded the voice swiftly. And as Sim watched lying upon his side, his comrades turned and fled back toward home. "The sun is coming! Our time is up!" He saw their muscled backs, their moving, tensing, flickering legs go up and down. The dead were left upon the field. The wounded cried for help. But there was no time for the wounded. There was only time for swift men to run the gauntlet home, and their lungs aching and raw with heated air, burst into their tunnels before the sun burnt and killed them. The sun! Sim saw another figure racing toward him. It was Cheon. Light was helping Sim to his feet, whispering helpfully to him. "Can you walk?" she asked, and he groaned and said, "I think so." "Walk then," she said. "Walk slowly, and then faster and faster. We'll make it. Walk slowly, start carefully. We'll make it. I know we will." Sim got to his feet, stood swaying. Cheon raced up, a strange expression cutting lines in his cheeks, his eyes shining with battle. Pushing Light abruptly aside, he seized upon a rock and dealt Sim a jolting blow upon his ankle that laid wide the flesh. All of this was done quite silently. Now he stood back, still not speaking, grinning like an animal from the night mountains, his chest panting in and out, looking from the thing he had done to Light and back. He got his breath. "He'll never make it," he nodded at Sim. "We'll have to leave him here. Come along, Light." Light, like a cat animal, sprang upon Cheon, searching for his eyes, shrieking through her exposed, hard-pressed teeth. Her fingers stroked great bloody furrows down Cheon's arms and again instantly down his neck. Cheon, with an oath, sprang away from her. She hurled a rock at him. Grunting, he let it miss him, then ran off a few yards. "Fool!" he cried, turning to scorn her. "Come along with me. Sim will be dead in a few minutes. Come along!" Light turned her back on him. "I will go if you carry me." Cheon's face changed. His eyes lost their gleaming. "There is no time. We would both die if I carried you." Light looked through and beyond him. "Carry me, then, for that's how I wish it to be." Without another word, glancing fearfully at the sun, Cheon fled. His footsteps sped away and vanished from hearing. "May he fall and break his neck," whispered Light, savagely glaring at his form as it skirted a ravine. She returned to Sim. "Can you walk?" Agonies of pain shot up his leg from the wounded ankle. He nodded, ironically. "We could make it to the cave in 2 hours walking. I have an idea, Light. Carry me." And he smiled with a grim joke. She took his arm. "Nevertheless, we'll walk. Come." "No," he said. "We're staying here." "But why?" "We came to seek a home here. If we walk, we will die. I would rather die here. How much time have we?" Together they measured the sun. "A few minutes," she said, her voice flat and dull. She held close to him. He looked at her. Light, he thought. Tomorrow I would have been a man. My body would have been strong and full, and there would have been time with you. A kissing and a touching. Damn. But what kind of life is this, where every last instant is drenched with fear and alert with death? Am I to be denied even some bit of real life? The black rocks of the cliff were paling into deep purples and browns as the sun began to flood the world. What a fool he was. He should have stayed and worked with Dink, and thought and dreamed, and at least one time cupped Light's mouth with his own, with the sinews of his neck standing out defiantly. He bellowed upward at the cliff holes. "Send me down one man to do battle!" Silence. His voice echoed from the cliff. The air was warm. "It's no use," said Light. "They'll pay no attention." He shouted again. "Hear me!" He stood with his weight on his good foot, his injured left leg throbbing and pulsating with pain. He shook a fist. "Send down a warrior who is no coward. I will not turn and run home. I have come to fight a fair fight. Send a man who will fight for the right to his cave. Him I will surely kill." More silence. A wave of heat passed over the land, receded. "Oh, surely," mocked Sim, hands on naked hips, head back, mouth wide. "Surely there's one among you not afraid to fight a cripple." Silence. "No?" Silence. "Then I have miscalculated you. I'm wrong. I'll stand here then until the sun shucks the flesh off my bone and black scraps and call you the filthy names you deserve." He got an answer. "I do not like being called names," replied a man's voice. Sim leaned forward, forgetting his crippled foot. A huge man appeared in a cave mouth on the 3rd level. "Come down," urged Sim. "Come down, fat one, and kill me." The man scowled seriously at his opponent a moment, then lumbered slowly down the path, his hands empty of any weapons. Immediately every cave above clustered with heads, an audience for this drama. The man approached Sim. "We will fight by the rules, if you know them." "I'll learn as we go," replied Sim. This pleased the man, and he looked at Sim warily, but not unkindly. "This much I will tell you," offered the man generously. "If you die, I will give your mate shelter, and she will live, as she pleases, Because she is the wife of a good man. Sim nodded swiftly. I am ready, he said. The rules are simple. We do not touch each other, save with stones. The stones and the sun will do either of us in. Now is the time. A tip of the sun showed on the horizon. My name is Nosh, said Sim's enemy, casually fingering up a handful of pebbles and stones, weighing them. Sim did likewise. He was hungry. He had not eaten for many minutes. Hunger was the curse of this planet's people. A perpetual demanding of empty stomachs for more food. His blood flushed weakly, shot tinglingly through veins and jolting throbs of heat and pressure. His rib case shoved out, went in, shoved out again, impatiently. No! Roared the 300 watchers from the cliffs. No! They clamored, the men and women and children balanced in turmoil on the ledges. No! Begin! As if at a cue, the sun leaped high. It smote them with a blow as with a flat, sizzling stone. The two men staggered under the molten impact. Sweat broke from their naked thighs and loins under their arms, and on their faces was a glaze like fine glass. Naj shifted his huge weight and looked at the sun as if in no hurry to fight. Then silently, with no warning, he knurked out a pebble with startling trigger flick of thumb and forefinger. It caught Sim flat on the cheek, staggered him back so that a rocket of unbearable pain climbed up his crippled foot and burst into nervous explosion at the pit of his stomach. He tasted blood from his bleeding cheek. Nosh moved serenely. 3 more flickers of his magic hands, and 3 tiny, seemingly harmless bits of stone flew like whistling birds. Each of them found a target, slammed it. The nerve centers of Sim's body. One hit his stomach so that 10 hours eating almost slit up his throat. A second got his forehead. A third his neck. He collapsed to the boiling sand. His knee made a wrenching sound on the hard earth. His face was colorless, and his eyes, squeezed tight, were pushing tears out from the hot, quivering lids. But even as he had fallen, he had let loose, with wild force, his handful of stones. The stones purred in the air. One of them, and only one, struck Naj. Upon the left eyeball, Naj moaned and laid his hands in the next instant to his shattered eye. Sim choked out a bitter, sighing laugh. This much triumph he had. The eye of his opponent. It would give him time. Oh, gods, he thought, his stomach retching sickly, fighting for breath. This is a world of time. Give me a little more, just a trifle. Naj, one-eyed, weaving with pain, pelted the writhing body of Sim, but his aim was off now. The stones flew to one side, or if they struck at all, they were weak and spent and lifeless. Sim forced himself half erect. From the corners of his eyes he saw light, waiting, staring at him, her lips breathing words of encouragement and hope. He was bathed in sweat, as if a rain spray had showered him down. The sun was now fully over the horizon. You could smell it. Stones glinted like mirrors. The sand began to roil and bubble. Illusions sprang up everywhere in the valley. Instead of one warrior, Naj, he was confronted by a dozen. Each in an upright position, preparing to launch another missile. A dozen irregular warriors who shimmered in the golden menace of a day, like bronze gongs, smitten, quivered in one vision. Sim was breathing desperately. His nostrils flared and sucked, and his mouth drank thirstily of flame instead of oxygen. His lungs took fire like silk torches, and his body was consumed. The sweat spilled from his pores to be instantly evaporated. He felt himself shriveling in on himself. He imagined himself looking like his father, old, sunken, slight, withered. Where was the sand? Could he move? Yes. The world wriggled under him, but now he was on his feet. There would be no more fighting. A murmur from the cliff told this. The sunburnt faces of the high audience gaped and jeered and shouted encouragement to their warrior. "Stand straight, Naj! Save your strength now! Stand tall and perspire!" they urged him. And Naj stood, swaying lightly, swaying slowly, a pendulum and an incandescent fiery breath from the skyline. "Don't move, Naj! Save your heart! Save your power!" "The test! The test!" said the people on the heights. "The test of the sun!" And this was the worst part of the fight. Sim squinted painfully at the distorted illusion of Cliff. He thought he saw his parents, father with his defeated face, his green eyes burning, mother with her hair blowing like a cloud of gray smoke in the fire wind. He must get to them, live for and with them. Behind him, Sim heard Light whimper softly. There was a whisper of flesh against sand. She had fallen. He did not dare turn. The strength of turning would bring him thundering down in pain and darkness. His knees bent. If I fall, he thought, I'll lie here and become ashes. Where was Naj? Naj was there, a few yards from him, standing bent, slick with perspiration, looking as if he were being hit over the spine with great hammers of destruction. "Fall, Naj! Fall!" screamed Sim mentally. "Fall! Fall! Fall and die so I can take your place!" But Naj did not fall. One by one the pebbles in his half-loose left hand plummeted to the broiling sands, and Naj's lips peeled back. The saliva burned away from his lips and his eyes glazed. But he did not fall. The will to live was strong in him. He hung as if by a wire. Sim fell to one knee. "Ah!" wailed the knowing voices from the cliff. They were watching death. Sim jerked his head up, smiling mechanically, foolishly, as if caught in the act of doing something silly. "No, no," he insisted drowsily and got back up again. There was so much pain he was all one ringing numbness. A whirring, buzzing, frying sound filled the land. High up, an avalanche came down like a curtain on a drama, making no noise. Everything was quiet except for a steady humming. He saw 50 images of Naj now, dressed in armors of sweat, eyes puffed with torture, cheeks sunken, lips peeled back like the rind of a drying fruit. But the wire still held him. "Now," muttered Sim sluggishly with a thick, baked tongue between his blazing teeth. "Now I'll fall and lie and dream." He said it with slow, thoughtful pleasure. He planned it. He knew how it must be done. He would do it accurately. He lifted his head to see if the audience was watching. They were gone. The sun had driven them back in, all save one or two brave ones. Sim laughed drunkenly and watched the sweat gather on his dead hands, hesitate, drop off, plunge downward towards sand, and turn to steam halfway there. Naj fell. The wire was cut. Naj fell flat upon his stomach. A gout of blood kicked from his mouth. His eyes rolled back into a white, senseless insanity. Naj fell. So did his 50 duplicate illusions. All across the valley the winds sang and moaned, and Sim saw a blue lake with a blue river feeding it, and low white houses near the river with people going and coming in the houses, and among the tall green trees. Trees taller than 7 men beside the river mirage. "Now," explained Sim to himself at last, "now I can fall. Right into that lake." He fell forward. He was shocked when he felt the hands eagerly stop him in mid-plunge, lift him, hurry him off, high in the hungry air like a torch held and waved ablaze. How strange is death, he thought, and blackness took him. He wakened to the flow of cool water on his cheeks. He opened his eyes fearfully. Light held his head upon her lap. Her fingers were moving food to his mouth. He was tremendously hungry and tired, but fear squeezed both of these things away. He struggled upward, seeing the strange cave contours overhead. "What time is it?" he demanded. "The same day as the contest. Be quiet," she said. "The same day?" She nodded amusedly. "You've lost nothing of your life. This is Naj's cave. We are inside the Black Cliff. we will live 3 extra days. Satisfied? Lie down. Naj is dead? He fell back, panting, his heart slamming his ribs. He relaxed slowly. I won. Gods, I won. He breathed. Naj is dead. So were we almost. They carried us in from outside only in time. He ate ravenously. We have no time to waste. We must get strong. My leg. He looked at it, tested it. There was a swath of long yellow grasses around it, and the ache had died away. Even as he watched, the terrific pulsings of his body went to work and cured away the impurities under the bandages. It has to be strong enough by sunset, he thought. It has to be. He got up and limped around the cave like a captured animal. He felt Light's eyes upon him. He could not meet her gaze. Finally, helplessly, he turned. She interrupted him. You want to go on to the ship? She asked softly. Tonight, when the sun goes down? He took a breath, exhaled it. Yes. You couldn't possibly wait until morning? No. Then I'll go with you. No. If I lag behind, let me. There's nothing here for me. They stared at each other a long while. He shrugged warily. All right, he said at last. I couldn't stop you, I know that. We'll go together. They waited in the mouth of their new cave. The sun set. The stones cooled so that one could walk on them. It was almost time for the leaping out and the running toward the distant, glittering metal seed that lay on the far mountain. Soon would come the rains. And Sim thought back over all the times he had watched the rains thicken into creeks, into rivers that cut new beds each night. One night there would be a river running north, the next a river running northeast, the third night a river running due west. The valley was continually cut and scarred by the torrents. Earthquakes and avalanches filled the old beds. New ones were the order of the day. It was this idea of the river and the directions of the river that he had turned over in his head for many hours. It might possibly... Well, he would wait and see. He noticed how living in this new cliff had slowed his pulse, slowed everything. A mineral result. Protection against the solar radiations. Life was still swift, but not as swift as before. Now, Sim, cried Light, testing the valley air. They ran, between the hot death and the cold one, together away from the cliffs out toward the distant beckoning ship. Never had they run this way in their lives. The sound of their feet running was a hard, insistent clatter over vast oblongs of rock, down into ravines, up the sides, and on again. They raked the air in and out of their lungs. Behind them, the cliffs faded away into things they could never turn back to now. They did not eat as they ran. They had eaten to the bursting point in the cave to save time. Now it was only running. A lifting of legs, a balancing of bent elbows, a convulsion of muscles, a slaking in of air that had been firing and was now cooling. Are they watching us? Light's breathless voice snatched at his ears above the pounding of his heart. Who? But he knew the answer. The cliff peoples, of course. How long had it been since a race like this one? 1,000 days? 10,000? How long since someone had taken the chance and sprinted with an entire civilization's eyes upon their backs, into gullies across cooling plain? Were their lovers pausing in their laughter back there, gazing at the 2 tiny dots that were a man and woman running toward destiny? Were children eating of new fruits and stopping in their play to see the 2 people racing against time? Was Dink still living, narrowing hairy eyebrows down over fading eyes, shouting them on in a feeble, rasping voice, shaking a twisted hand? Were there jeers? Were they being called fools, idiots? And in the midst of the name-calling were people praying them on, hoping they would reach the ship? Yes, under all the cynicism and pessimism, some of them, all of them, must be praying. Sim took a quick glance at the sky, which was beginning to bruise with the coming night. Out of nowhere, clouds materialized and a light shower trailed across a gully 200 yards ahead of them. Lightning beat down upon distant mountains, and there was a strong scent of ozone on the disturbed air. "The halfway mark," panted Sim, and he saw Light's face half turn, longingly looking back at the life she was leaving. "Now's the time. If we want to turn back, we still have time. Another minute." Thunder snarled in the mountains. An avalanche started out small and ended up huge and monstrous in a deep fissure. Light rain dotted Light's smooth white skin. In a minute, her hair was glistening and soggy with rain. "Too late now," she shouted over the padding rhythm of her own naked feet. "We've got to go ahead." And it was too late. Sim knew, judging the distances, that there was no turning back now. His leg began to pain him a little. He favored it, slowing. A wind came up swiftly, a cold wind that bit into the skin. But it came from the cliffs behind them, helped rather than hindered them. An omen, he wondered? No. For as the minutes went by, it grew upon him how poorly he had estimated the distance. Their time was dwindling out, but they were still an impossible distance from the ship. He said nothing, but the impotent anger at the slow muscles in his legs welled up into bitterly hot tears in his eyes. He knew that Light was thinking the same as himself, but she flung along like a white bird, seeming hardly to touch ground. He heard her breath go out and in her throat, like a clean, sharp knife in its sheath. Half the sky was dark. The first stars were peering through lengths of black cloud. Lightning jiggled a path along a rim just ahead of them. A full thunderstorm of violent rain and exploding electricity fell upon them. They slipped and skidded on moss-smooth pebbles. Light fell, scrambled up again with a burning oath. Her body was scarred and dirty. The rain washed over her. The rain came down and cried on Sim. It filled his eyes and ran in rivers down his spine, and he wanted to cry with it. Light fell and did not rise, sucking her breath, her breasts quivering. He picked her up and held her. "Run, Light! Please, run!" "Leave me, Sim. Go ahead." The rain filled her mouth. There was water everywhere. "It's no use. Go on without me." He stood there cold and powerless, his thoughts sagging, the flame of hope blinking out. All the world was blackness, cold falling sheets of water and despair. "We'll walk then," he said, "and keep walking, and resting." They walked for 50 yards, easily, slowly, like children out for a stroll. The gully ahead of them filled with water that went sliding away with a swift, wet sound toward the horizon. Sim cried out. Tugging at Light, he raced forward. "A new channel," he said, pointing. "Each day the rain cuts a new channel. Here, Light!" He leaned over the floodwaters. He dived in, taking her with him. The flood swept them like bits of wood. They fought to stay upright. The water got into their mouths, their noses. The land swept by on both sides of them. Clutching Light's finger with insane strength, Sim felt himself hurled end over end, saw flicks of lightning on high, and a new fierce hope was born in him. They could no longer run. Well, then they would let the water do the running for them. With a speed that dashed them against rocks, split open their shoulders, abraded their legs, the new, brief river carried them. "This way!" Sim shouted over a salvo of thunder and steered frantically toward the opposite side of the gully. The mountain where the ship lay was just ahead. They must not pass it by. They fought in the transporting liquid and were slammed against the far side. Sim leaped up, caught at an overhanging rock, locked Light in his legs, and drew himself hand over hand upward. As quickly as it had come, the storm was gone. The lightning faded, the rain ceased. The clouds melted and fell away over the sky. The wind whispered into silence. "The ship." Light lay upon the ground. "The ship, Sim. This is the mountain of the ship." Now the cold came. The killing cold. They forced themselves drunkenly up the mountain. The cold slid along their limbs, got into their arteries like a chemical, and slowed them. Ahead of them, with a fresh-washed sheen, lay the ship. It was a dream. Sim could not believe that they were actually so near it. 200 yards, 170 yards. Gods, but it was cold. The ground became covered with ice. They slipped and fell again and again. Behind them, the river was frozen into a blue-white snake of cold solidity. A few last drops of rain from somewhere came down as hard pellets. Sim fell against the bulk of the ship. He was actually touching it. Touching it! He heard Light whimpering in her constricted throat. This was the metal, the ship. How many others had touched it in the long days? He and Light had made it. He touched it lovingly. Then, as cold as the air, his veins were chilled. Where was the entrance? You run, you swim, you almost drown, you curse, you sweat, you work. You reach a mountain, you go up it, you hammer on metal, you shout with relief. You reach the ship, and then you can't find the entrance. He fought to keep himself from breaking down. Slowly, he told himself, but not too slowly, go around the ship. The metal slid under his searching hands, so cold that his hands, sweating, almost froze to it. Now, far around to the side, Light moved with him. The cold held them like a fist. It began to squeeze. The entrance. Metal. Cold, immutable metal. A thin line of opening at the ceiling point. Throwing all caution aside, he beat at it. He felt his stomach seething with cold. His fingers were numb. His eyes were half frozen in their sockets. He began to beat and search and scream against the metal door. "Open up! Open up!" He staggered. The airlock sighed. With a whispering of metal on rubber beddings, the door swung softly sidewise and vanished back. He saw Light run forward, clutching at her throat, and drop inside a small, shiny chamber. He shuffled after her, blankly. The airlock door sealed shut behind him. He could not breathe. His heartbeat began to slow, to stop. They were trapped inside the ship now, and something was happening. He sank down to his knees and choked for air. The ship he had come to for salvation was now slowing his pulse, darkening his brain, poisoning him. With a starved, faint kind of expiring terror, he realized that he was dying. Blackness. He had a dim sense of time passing, of thinking, struggling to make his heart go quick, quick, to make his eyes focus. But the fluid in his body lagged quietly through his settling veins, and he heard his temple pulses thud, pause, thud, pause, and thud again, with lulling intermissions. He could not move, not a hand or leg or finger. It was an effort to lift the tonnage of his eyelashes. He could not shift his face even to see Light lying beside him. From a distance came her irregular breathing. It was like the sound a wounded bird makes with his dry, unraveled pinions. She was so close he could almost feel the heat of her, yet she seemed a long way removed. "I'm getting cold," he thought. "Is this death? This slowing of blood, of my heart, this cooling of my body, this drowsy thinking of thoughts?" Staring at the ship's ceiling, he traced its intricate system of tubes and machines. The knowledge, the purpose of the ship, its actions, seeped into him. He began to understand in a kind of revealing lassitude just what these things were his eyes rested upon. Slow, slow. There was an instrument with a gleaming white dial. Its purpose? He drudged away at the problem, like a man underwater. People had used the dial, touched it. People had repaired it, installed it. People had dreamed of it before the building, before the installing, before the repairing and touching and using. The dial contained memory of use and manufacture. Its very shape was a dream memory telling Sim why and for what it had been built. Given time, looking at anything, he could draw from it the knowledge he desired. Some dim part of him reached out, dissected the contents of things, analyzed them, This dial measured time. Millions of days of time. But how could that be? Sim's eyes dilated, hot and glittering. Where were humans who needed such an instrument? Blood thrummed and beat behind his eyes. He closed them. Panic came to him. The day was passing. I am lying here, he thought, and my life slips away. I cannot move. My youth is passing. How long before I can move? Through a kind of wrinkling and withering, he thought. This ship will not let me move. How much better if I'd stayed in my home cliff, lived, enjoyed this short life. What good has it done to come here? I'm missing all the twilights and dawns. I'll never touch light, though she's here at my side. Delirium. His mind floated up. His thoughts whirled through the metal ship. He smelled the razor-sharp smell of joined metal. He heard the hull contract with night, relax with day. Dawn. Already another dawn. Today I would have been mature. His jaw clenched. I must get up. I must move. I must enjoy my time of maturity. But he did not move. He felt his blood pump sleepily from chamber to red chamber in his heart, on, down, and around through his dead body, to be purified by his folding and unfolding lungs. Then the circuit once more. The ship grew warm. From somewhere a machine clicked. Automatically the temperature cooled. A controlled gust of air flushed the room. Night again. And then another day. He lay and saw 4 days of his life pass. He did not try to fight. It was no use. His life was over. He didn't want to turn his head now. He didn't want to see Light with her face like his tortured mother's. Eyelids like gray ash flakes. Eyes like beaten, sanded metal. Cheeks like eroded stones. He didn't want to see a throat like parched thongs of yellow grass. Hands the pattern of smoke risen from a fire. Breasts like desiccated rinds, and hair stubbly and unshorn as moist gray weeds. And himself? How did he look? Was his jaw sunken, the flesh of his eyes pitted, his brow lined and age-scarred? His strength began to return. He felt his heart beating so slow that it was amazing. 100 beats a minute. Impossible. He felt so cool, so thoughtful, so easy. His head fell over to one side. He stared at Light. He shouted in surprise. She was young and fair. She was looking at him, too weak to say anything. Her eyes were like tiny silver medals. Her throat curved like the arm of a child. Her hair was blue fire eating at her scalp, fed by the slender life of her body. 4 days had passed, and still she was young. No, younger than when they had entered the ship. She was still adolescent. He could not believe it. Her first words were, "How long will this last?" He replied carefully, "I don't know." "We are still young." The ship, its metal is around us. It cuts away the sun and the things that came from the sun to age us. Her eyes shifted thoughtfully. "Then, if we stay here, we'll remain young." 6 more days? 14 more? 20? More than that, maybe. She lay there silently. After a long time, she said, "Sim?" "Yes." "Let's stay here. Let's not go back. If we go back now, you know what'll happen to us." "I'm not certain. We'll start getting old again, won't we?" He looked away again. He stared at the ceiling and the clock with the moving finger. "Yes, we'll grow old." "What if we grow old instantly? When we step from the ship, won't the shock be too much?" "Maybe. Another silence. He began to move his limbs, testing them. He was very hungry. "The others are waiting," he said. Her next words made him gasp. "The others are dead," she said, "or will be in a few hours. All those we knew back there are old and worn." He tried to picture them old. Dark, his sister, bent and senile with time. He shook his head, wiping the picture away. "They may die," he said, "but there are others who have been born." "People we don't even know," said Light flatly. "But nevertheless, our people," he replied. "People who will live only 8 days or 11 days unless we help them." "But we're young, Sim. We're young. We can stay young." He didn't want to listen. It was too tempting a thing to listen to stay here, to live. "We've already had more time than the others," he said. "I need workers, men to heal this ship. We'll get on our feet now, you and I, and find food, eat, and see if the ship is movable. I'm afraid to try to move it myself. It's so big. I'll need help." "But that means running back all that distance." "I know." He lifted himself weakly. "But I'll do it." "How will you get the men back here?" "We'll use the river." "If it's there, it may be somewhere else." "We'll wait until there is one, then. I've got to go back, Light. The son of Dink is waiting for me. My sister, your brother, are old people, ready to die and waiting for some word from us." After a long while he heard her move, dragging herself tiredly to him. She put her head upon his chest, her eyes closed, stroking his arm. "I'm sorry. Forgive me. You have to go back. I'm a selfish fool." He touched her cheek, clumsily. "You're human. I understand you. There's nothing to forgive." They found food. They walked through the ship. It was empty. Only in the control room did they find the remains of a man who must have been the chief pilot. The others had evidently bailed out into space in emergency lifeboats. This pilot, sitting at its controls, alone, had landed the ship on a mountain within sight of other fallen and smashed crafts. Its location on high ground had saved it from the floods. The pilot himself had died, probably of heart failure soon after landing. The ship had remained here, almost within reach of the other survivors. Perfect as an egg, but silent for how many thousand days? If the pilot had lived, what a different thing life might have been for the ancestors of Sim and Light. Sim, thinking of this, felt the distant, ominous vibration of war. How had the war between worlds come out? Who had won? Or had both planets lost and never bothered trying to pick up survivors? Who had been right? Who was the enemy? Were Sim's people of the guilty or innocent side? They might never know. He checked the ship hurriedly. He knew nothing of its workings, yet as he walked its corridors, patted its machines, he learned from it. It needed only a crew. One man couldn't possibly set the whole thing running again. He laid his hand upon one round snout-like machine. He jerked his hand away, as if burnt. "Light." "What is it?" He touched the machine again, caressed it. His hand trembled violently. His eyes welled with tears. His mouth opened and closed. He looked at the machine, loving it, then looked at Light. "With this machine," he stammered softly, incredulously, with this machine, I can..." "What, Sim?" He inserted his hand into a cup-like contraption with a lever inside. Out of porthole in front of him, he could see the distant line of cliffs. "We were afraid there might never be another river running by this mountain, weren't we?" he asked exultantly. "Yes, Sim, but..." "There will be a river, and I will come back, tonight. And I'll bring men with me, 500 men, because with this machine I can blast a river bottom all the way to the cliffs, down which the waters will rush, giving myself and the men a swift, sure way of traveling back. He rubbed the machine's barrel-like body. When I touch it, the life and method of it shot into me. Watch! He depressed the lever. A beam of incandescent fire lanced out from the ship, screaming. Steadily, accurately, Sim began to cut away a riverbed for the storm waters to flow in. The night was turned to day by its hungry eating. The return to the cliffs was to be carried out by Sim alone. Light was to remain in the ship in case of any mishap. The trip back seemed at first glance to be impossible. There would be no river rushing to cut his time, to sweep him along toward his destination. He would have to run the entire distance in the dawn, and the sun would get him, catch him before he'd reach safety. The only way to do it is to start before sunrise. But you'd be frozen, Sim. Here. He made adjustments on the machine that had just finished cutting the riverbed in the rock floor of the valley. He lifted the smooth snout of the gun, pressed the lever, left it down. A gout of fire shot toward the cliffs. He fingered the range control, focused the flame end 3 miles from its source. Done. He turned to Light. "But I don't understand," she said. He opened the airlock door. "It's bitter cold out, and half an hour yet till dawn. If I run parallel to the flame from the machine, close enough to it, there'll not be much heat, but enough to sustain life anyway." "It doesn't sound safe," Light protested. "Nothing does on this world." He moved forward. "I'll have half an hour's start. That should be enough to reach the cliffs." "But if the machine should fail while you're still running near its beam?" "Let's not think of that," he said. A moment later he was outside. He staggered as if kicked in the stomach. His heart almost exploded in him. The environment of his world forced him into swift living again. He felt his pulse rise, kicking through his veins. The night was cold as death. The heat ray from the ship sliced across the valley, humming solid and warm. He moved next to it, very close. One misstep in his running, and... "I'll be back," he called to Light. He and the ray of light went together. In the early morning, the peoples in the caves saw the long finger of orange incandescence, and the weird, whitish apparition floating, running along beside it. There was muttering and superstition. So when Sim finally reached the cliffs of his childhood, he saw alien peoples swarming there. There were no familiar faces. Then he realized how foolish it was to expect familiar faces. One of the older men glared down at him. "Who are you?" he shouted. "Are you from the enemy cliff? What's your name?" "I am Sim, the son of Sim." "Sim?" An old woman shrieked from the cliff above him. She came hobbling down the stone pathway. "Sim! Sim, it is you!" He looked at her, frankly bewildered. "But I don't know you," he murmured. "Sim, don't you recognize me? Oh, Sim, it's me, Dark!" "Dark!" He felt sick at his stomach. She fell into his arms, this old trembling woman with the half-blind eyes. His sister. Another face appeared above, that of an old man. A cruel, bitter face. It looked down at Sim and snarled. "Drive him away," cried the old man. "He comes from the cliff of the enemy. He's lived there. He's still young. Those who go there can never come back among us. Disloyal beast!" And a rock hurtled down. Sim leaped aside, pulling the old woman with him. A roar came from the people. They ran toward Sim, shaking their fists. "Kill him! Kill him!" raved the old man, and Sim did not know who he was. "Stop!" Sim held out his hands. "I come from the ship!" "The ship?" The people slowed. Dark clung to him, looking up into his young face, puzzling over its smoothness. "Kill him! Kill him! Kill him!" croaked the old man and picked up another rock. "I offer you 10 days, 20 days, 30 more days of life," The people stopped. Their mouths hung open. Their eyes were incredulous. 30 days? It was repeated again and again. How? Come back to the ship with me. Inside it, one can live forever. The old man lifted high a rock, then, choking, fell forward in an apoplectic fit, and tumbled down the rocks to lie at Sim's feet. Sim bent to peer at the Ancient One, at the bleary, dead eyes, the loose, snaring lips, the crumpled, quiet body. Cheon. Yes, said Dark behind him, in a croaking, strange voice. Your enemy, Cheon. That night 1,000 warriors started for the ship as if going to war. The water ran in the new channel. 500 of them were drowned or lost behind in the cold. The others, with Sim, got through to the ship. Light awaited them, and threw wide the metal door. The weeks passed. Generations lived and died in the cliffs, while the 500 workers labored over the ship, learning its functions and its parts. On the last day they disbanded. Each ran to his station. Now there was a destiny of travel who still remained behind. Sim touched the control plates under his fingers. Light, rubbing her eyes, came and sat on the floor next to him, resting her head against his knee drowsily. I had a dream, she said, looking off at something far away. I dreamed I lived in caves in a cliff, on a cold, hot planet, where people grew old and died in 8 days and were burnt. What an impossible dream, said Sim. People couldn't possibly live in such a nightmare. Forget it. You're awake now. He touched the plates gently. The ship rose and moved into space. Sim was right. The nightmare was over at last. End of The Creatures That Time Forgot by Ray Bradbury. Defense Mech by Ray Bradbury. Oh my God. Do you realize how far from Earth we are? Do you really think about it? It's enough to scare the guts from a man. Hold me up. Do something. Get me sedatives or hold my hand or run call Mama. 1,000,000 cold miles up. See all the flickering stars? Look at my hands tremble. Feel my heart whirling like a hot pinwheel. The captain comes toward me, a stunned expression on his small, tight face. He takes my arm, looking into my eyes. Hello, Captain. I'm sick, if that's what you want to know. I've a right to be scared. Just look at all that space. Standing here a moment ago, I stared down at Earth so round and cloud-covered and asleep on a mat of stars, and my brain tore loose and screamed, Man, how'd you get in a mess like this in a rocket 1,000,000 miles past the moon, shooting for Mars with a crew of 14 others? I can hardly stand up. My knees, my hands, my heart are shaking apart. Hold me up, sir. What are hysterics like? The captain unprongs the interdeck audio and speaks swiftly, scowling into it. I hope he's phoning the psychiatrist. I need something. Oh, damn it. The psychiatrist and the captain's voices murmur and blend, with here and there an emphasis, a toss of head, a gesture. Young Holloway here's on a fear jag, Doctor. Can you help him? I'll try. Good man, Holloway is. Imagine you'll need him and his muscles when we land. With the crew as small as it is, every man's worth his weight in uranium. He's got to be cured. The psychiatrist shakes his head. Might have to squirt him full of drugs to keep him quiet the rest of the expedition. The captain explodes, saying that is impossible. Blood drums in my head. The doctor moves closer, smelling clean, sharp, and white. Please understand, Captain. This man is definitely psychotic about going home. His talk is almost a reversion to childhood. I can't refuse his demands, and his fear seems too deeply based for reasoning. However, I think I have an idea. Holloway? Yes, sir. Help me, Doctor. I want to go home. I want to see popcorn exploding into a buttered avalanche inside a glass cube. I want to roller skate. I want to climb into the old, cool, wet ice wagon and go chick, chick, chick on the ice with a sharp pick. I want to take long, sweating hikes in the country, see big brick buildings and bright-faced people, fight the old gang, anything but this. Awful. The psychiatrist rubs his chin. All right, son. You can go back to Earth now, tonight. Again, the captain explodes. You can't tell him that! We're landing on Mars today! The psychiatrist pats down the captain patiently. Please, Captain. Well, Holloway, back to New York for you. How does it sound? I'm not so scared now. We're going down on the moving ladder, and here is the psychiatrist's cubicle. He's pouring lights into my eyes. They revolve like stars on a disc. Lots of strange machines around. Attachments to my head, my ears. Sleepy. Oh, so sleepy, like under warm water. Being pushed around, laved, washed, quiet. Oh gosh, sleepy. Listen to me, Holloway. Sleepy, doctors talking. Very soft, like feathers, soft, soft. You're going to land on Earth. No matter what they tell you, you're landing on Earth. No matter what happens, you'll be on Earth. Everything you see and do will be like on Earth. Remember that. Remember that. You won't be afraid because you'll be on Earth. Remember that. Over and over, you'll land on Earth in an hour. Home. Home again. No matter what anyone says. Oh, yes, sir. Home again. Sleepy. Home again. Drifting. Sleeping. Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you from the bottom of my drowsy, sleepy soul. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sleepy drifting. I'm awake. Hey, everybody, come look. Here comes Earth. Right at us like a green moss ball off a bat. Coming at us on a curve.
Check stations. Mars landing. Get in the boulders. Test atmosphere.
Get into your, what did he say? Your baseball uniform, Holloway. Your baseball uniform. Yes, sir. My baseball uniform. Where'd I put it? Over here. Head into, legs into, feet into it. There. Ha! This is great. Pitcher in here, old boy, old boy. Smack! Yow! Yes, sir. It's over in that metal locker. I'll take it out. Head, arms, legs into it. I'm dressed. Baseball uniform. Ha! This is great. Pitcher in here, old boy, old boy. Smack! Yow!
Adjust boulder helmets. Check oxygen.
What? Put on your catcher's mitt, Holloway. Oh, the mask slides down over my face, like that. The captain comes rushing up, eyes hot, green, and angry.
Doctor, what's this infernal nonsense?
You wanted Holloway able to do his work, didn't you, Captain?
Yes, but what in hell have you done to him?
Strange. As they talk, I hear their words flow over my head like a wave dashed on a sea stone. But the words drain off, leaving no imprint. As soon as some words invade my head, something eats and digests them, and I think the words are something else entirely. The psychiatrist nods at me. I couldn't change his basic desire. Given time, yes, a period of months, I could have, but you need him now. So against all the known ethics of my profession, which say one must never lie to a patient, I've followed along in his own thought channel. I didn't dare frustrate him. He wants to go home, so I let him. I've given him a fantasy. I've set up a protective defense mechanism in his mind that refuses to believe certain realities that evaluate all things from its own desire for security and home. His mind will automatically block any thought or image that endangers that security. The captain stares wildly.
Then Holloway's insane.
Would you have him mad with fear, or able to work on Mars hindered by only a slight touched condition? Coddle him and he'll do fine. Just remember, we're landing on Earth, not Mars.
Earth, Mars, you'll have me raving next.
The doctor and the captain certainly talk weirdly. Who cares? Here comes Earth. Green, expanding like a moist cabbage underfoot.
Mars landing. Airlock opened. Use boulder oxygen.
Here we go, gang. Last one out is a pink chimpanzee.
Holloway, come back, you damn fool. You'll kill yourself.
Feel the good, sweet Earth. Home again. Praise the Lord. Let's dance. Sing off key. Laugh. Oh, boy. In the door of the house stands the captain, his face red and wrinkled, waving his fists.
Holloway, come back. Look behind you, you fool.
I whirl about and cry out happily. Shep, old dog. He comes running to meet me. Long fur, shining amber in the sunshine, barking. Shep, I haven't seen you in years, good old pooch. Come here, Shep, let me pet you. The captain shrieks. Don't pet it, it looks like a carnivorous Martian worm. Man, the jaws on that thing. Holloway, use your knife. Shep snarls and shows his teeth. Shep, what's wrong? That's no way to greet me. Come on, Shep. Hey. I pull back my fingers as his swift jaws snap. Shep circles me swiftly. You haven't rabies, have you, Shep? He darts in, snatches my ankle with strong, locking, white teeth. Lord, Shep, you're crazy. I can't let this go on. You used to be such a fine, beautiful dog. Remember all the hikes we took into the lazy corn country by the red barns and deep wells? Shep clenches tight my ankle. I'll give him one more chance. Shep, let go. Where did this long knife come from in my hand like magic? Sorry to do this, Shep, but... There! Shep screams, thrashing, screams again. My arm pumps up and down. My gloves are freckled with blood flakes. Don't scream, Shep. I said I was sorry, didn't I? Get out there, you men, and bury that beast immediately. I glare at the captain. Don't talk that way about Shep. Captain stares at my ankle. Sorry, Holloway. I meant bury that dog, you men. Give him full honors. You were lucky, son. Another second and those knife teeth had bored through your ankle cuff metal. I don't know what he means. I'm wearing sneakers, sir. Oh, yeah, so you are, yeah. Well, I'm sorry, Holloway. I know how you must feel about Shep. He was a fine dog. I think about it a moment, and my eyes fill up. What? There'll be a picnic and a hike, the captain says. 3 hours now the boys have carried luggage from the metal house. The way they talk, this'll be some picnic. Some seem afraid, but who worries about copperheads and water moccasins and crawfish? Not me, no sir, not me. Gus Bartz, sweating beside me on some apparatus, squints at me. What's eating you, Holloway? I smile. Me? Nothing, why? You would not act with the Martian worm. What are you talking about? What worm? Captain interrupts nervously. Bartz, lay off Holloway. The doctor will explain why. Ask him. Bartz goes away, scratching his head. The captain pats my shoulder. You're our strong-arm man, Holloway. You've got muscles from working on the rocket engines. So keep alert today, eh? On your hike to look over the territory, keep your BB gun ready. Beavers, do you think, sir? The captain swallows hard and blinks. Beavers, yeah, beavers. Sure, beavers, maybe. Mountain lions and Indians, too, I hear. Never can tell, be careful. Mountain lions and Indians in New York in this day and age? Oh, sir. Let it go. Keep alert anyhow. Smoke? I don't smoke, sir. A strong mind and a healthy body. You know the old rule. The old rule. Oh, yes, the old rule. Only joking. I don't want to smoke anyway, like hell. What was that last, sir? Nothing, Holloway. Carry on, carry on. I help the others work now. Are we taking the yellow streetcar to the edge of town, Gus? We're using propulsion belts, skimming low over the Dead Seas. How's that again, Gus? I said we're taking the yellow streetcar to the end of the line, yeah. We're ready. Everyone's packed, spreading out. We're going in groups of 4, down Main Street, past the pie factory, over the bridge, through the tunnel, past the circus grounds, and we'll rendezvous, says the captain, at a place he points to on a queer, disjointed map. Whoosh, we're off. I forgot to pay my fare. That's okay, I paid it. Thanks, Captain. We're really traveling. The cypresses and the maples flash by. Ka-hoom! I wouldn't admit this to anyone but you, sir, but momentarily there, I didn't see this streetcar. Suddenly, we moved in empty space, nothing supporting us. I didn't see any car, but now I see it, sir. Captain gazes at me at a 9-day miracle. You do, eh? Yes, sir. I clutch upward. Here's the strap, I'm holding it. You look pretty funny sliding through the air with your hand up like that, Holloway. How's that, sir? Why are the others laughing at me, sir? Nothing, son, nothing. Just happy, that's all. Ding, 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 ding. Canal Street in Washington. Ding, ding, whoosh. This is real traveling. Funny, though, the captain and his men keep moving, changing seats, never stay seated. It's a long streetcar. I'm way in back now. They're out front. By the large brown house on the next corner stands a popcorn wagon, yellow and red and blue. I can taste the popcorn in my mind. It's been a long time since I've eaten some. If I ask the captain's permission to stop and buy a bag, he'll refuse. I'll just sneak off the car at the next stop. I can get back on the next car and catch up with the gang later. How do you stop this car? My fingers fumble with my baseball outfit, doing something I don't want to know about. The car is stopping. Why is that? Popcorn is more important. I'm off the car, walking. Here is the popcorn machine with a man behind it, fussing with little silver metal knobs. Lock, car is... Tony? Tony Bambino, what are you doing here? Clack. It can't be, but it is. Tony, who died 10 long years ago when I was a freckled kid, alive and selling popcorn again. Oh, Tony, it's good to see you. His black mustache is so waxed, so shining, his dark hair like burnt oily shavings, his dark, shining, happy eyes, his smiling red cheeks. He shimmers in my eyes like a cold rain. Tony, let me shake your hand. Give me a bag of popcorn, senor. Clack, clack, clack. Spot, clack, clack. The captain didn't see you, Tony. You were hidden so well, only I saw you. Just a moment while I searched for my nickel. Whew. I'm dizzy. It's very hot. My head spins like a leaf on a storm wind. Let me hold on to your wagon, Tony. Quick. I'm shivering, and I've got sharp needle head pains. I'm running a temperature. I feel as if I have a torch hung flaming in my head. Hotter. Pardon me for criticizing you, Tony, but I think it's your popper turned up too high. Your face looks afraid, contorted, and your hands move so rapidly. Why? Can't you shut it off? I'm hot. Everything melts. My knees sag. Warmer still. You better turn that thing off. I can't take it anymore. I can't find my nickel anyhow. Please snap it off, Tony. I'm sick. My uniform glows orange. I'll take fire. Here, I'll turn it off for you, Tony. You hit me. Stop hitting me. Stop clicking those knobs. It's hot, I tell you. Stop or I'll... Tony, where are you? Gone. Where did that purple flame shoot from? That loud blast, what was it? The flame seemed to stream from my hand out of my scout flashlight. Purple flame eating. I smell a sharp, bitter odor like hamburger fried over long. I feel better now. Cool as winter, but like a fly buzzing in my ears, a voice comes, faint, far off. Holloway! Damn it! Holloway, where are you? Captain, it's his voice, sizzling. I don't see you, sir. Holloway, we're on the dead sea bottom near an ancient Martian city. Oh, never mind, damn it. If you hear me, press your Boy Scout badge and yell. I press the badge intensely, sweating. Hey, Captain! Holloway, Glory, you're not dead. Where are you? I stopped for popcorn, sir. I can't see you. How do I hear you? It's an echo. Let it go. If you're okay, grab the next streetcar. That's very opportune because here comes a big red streetcar now, around the corner of the drugstore. What? Yes, sir, and it's chock full of people. I'll climb aboard. Wait a minute. Hold on. Murder. What kind of people, damn it? It's the West Side Gang, sure. The whole bunch of tough kids. West Side Gang. Hell, those are Martians. Get the hell out of there. Transfer to another car. Take the subway. Take the elevated. Too late. The car stopped. I'll have to get on. The conductor looks impatient. Impatient, he says. You'll be massacred. Uh-oh. Everybody's climbing from the streetcar, looking angry at me. Kelly and Grogan and Tompkins and the others. I guess there will be a fight. The captain's voice stabs my ears, but I don't see him anywhere. Use your gun, your blaster. Hell, use your slingshot or throw spitballs or whatever the devil you imagine you got holstered there. But use it. Come on, man, about face and back. I'm outnumbered. I bet they'll gang me and give me the bumps. I bet they'll truss me to a maple tree, and tickle me. I bet they'll ink tattoo their initials on my forehead. Mother won't like this. Captain's voice opens up louder, driving nearer. And Papa ain't happy. Get out of there, Holloway. They're hitting me, sir. We're battling. Keep it up, Holloway. I knocked one down, sir, with an uppercut. I'm knocking another one down now. Here goes the third. Someone's grabbed my ankle. I'll kick him. There. I'm stumbling, falling. Lights in my eyes, purple ones. Big lightning bolts sizzling the air. 3 of them vanished just like that. I think they fell down a manhole. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt them bad. They stole my flashlight. Get it back, Holloway. We're coming. Get your flash and use it. That's silly. Silly, he says. Silly. I got my flashlight back. Broken. No good. We're wrestling. There are so many of them. I'm weak. They're climbing all over me, hitting. It's not fair. I'm falling down, kicking, screaming. Up speed, men, full power. They're binding me up. I can't move. They're rushing me into the streetcar now. Now I won't be able to go on that hike, and I planned on it so hard, too. Here we are, Holloway. Blast 'em, men. Oh, my Lord, look at the horrible faces on those creatures. Gah! Watch out, Captain. They'll get you, too, and the others. Ah! Somebody struck me on the back of my head. Darkness. Dark. Rock my baby on the treetop when the wind blows. Okay, Holloway, anytime. Just any old time you want to come to. Dark. A voice talking. Dark as a whale's insides. Ouch, my head. Flat on my back, I can feel rocks under me. Good morning, dear Mr. Holloway. That you, Captain, over in that dark corner? It ain't the President of the United States. Where's this cave? Suppose you tell us. You got us into this mess with your eternally blasted popcorn. Why'd you get off the streetcar? Did the West Side Gang truss us up like this, Captain? West Side Gang. Ugh. Those faces. Those inhuman, weird, unsavory, and horrible faces. All loose-fleshed and gangrenous. Aliens. The whole rotting clutch of them. What a funny way to talk. Listen, you parboiled idiot. In about an hour, we're going to be fried, gutted, iced, killed, slaughtered, murdered. We will be ipso facto dead. Your friends are whipping up a little bloodletting jamboree. Can't I shove it through your thick skull? We're on Mars, about to be sliced and hammered by a lousy bunch of Martians.
Captain, sir?
Yes, Berman.
The cave door is opening, sir. I think the Martians are ready to have at us again, sir. Some sort of test or other, no doubt.
Let go of me, you one-eyed monster. I'm coming. Don't push. We're outside the cave. They're cutting our bonds. See, Captain, they aren't hurting us after all. Here's the brick alley. There's Mr. Hate's underwear waving on the clothesline. See all the people from the beer hall? What are they waiting for? To see us die.
Captain, what's wrong with Holloway? He's acting queer.
At least he's better off than us. He can't see these creatures' faces and bodies. It's enough to turn a man's stomach. This must be their amphitheater. That looks like an obstacle course. I gather from their sign lingo that if we make it through the obstacles, we're free. Footnote. Nobody's ever gotten through alive yet. Seems they want you to go first, Berman. Good luck, boy.
So long, Captain. So long, Gus. So long, Holloway.
Berman's running down alley with an easy, long-muscled stride. I hear him yelling high and clear, even though he's getting far away. Here comes an automobile. Berman! Ah! It hit him! He's fallen! Berman, get up! Get up! Stay here, Holloway. It's not your turn yet. My turn? What do you mean? Someone's got to help Berman. Holloway, come back! Oh, man, I don't want to see this. Lift up my legs. Put them down. Breathe out. Breathe in. Swing arms. Swing legs. Chew my tongue. Blink my eyes. Berman, here I come. Gee, things are crazy funny. Here comes an ice wagon trundling along. It's coming right at me. I can't see to get around it. It's coming so fast I'll jump inside it. Jump, jump. Cool. Ice pick. Check, check, check. I hear the captain screaming off 1,000,000 hot miles gone. Chick, 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 around the ice perimeter. The ice wagon is thundering, rioting, jouncing, shaking, rolling on big rusty iron wheels, smelling of sour ammonia, bouncing on a corduroy dirt and brick alley road. The rear end of it seems to to be snapping shut with many ice prongs. I feel intense pain in my left leg. Check, 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 check. Piece of ice. Cold square, cold cube, a shuddering and convulsing, a trembler. The wagon wheels stop rolling. I jump down and run away. The wrecked wagon. Did the wagon roll over Berman? I hope not. A fence here. I'll jump over it. Another popcorn machine. Very warm, very hot. All flame and red fire and burning metal knobs. Oops. I didn't mean to strike the popcorn man down. Hello, Berman. What are you doing in my arms? How'd you get here? Did I pick you up? And why? An obstacle race at the high school? You're heavy. I'm tired. Dogs nipping at my heels. How far am I supposed to carry you? I hear the captain screaming me on. For why? For why? Here comes the big bag truant officer with a club in his hand to take me back to school. He looks mean and broad. I kicked the truant officer. Shins and kicked him in the face. Mama won't like that. Yes, Mommy. No, Mommy. That's unfair. That's not ethical fighting. Something went squish. Let's forget about it, shall we? Breathing hard. Here comes the gang after me. All the rough, bristly Irishmen and scarred Norwegians and stubborn Italians. Hit, kick, wrestle. Here comes a swift car. Fast, fast. I hope I can duck with you, Berman. Here comes another car from the opposite way. If I work things right. Stop screaming, Berman. The cars crashed into each other. The cars still roll, tumbling like two animals tearing at each other's throats. Not far to go now, Berman. To the end of the alley just ahead. I'll sleep for 40 years when this is over. Where'd I get this flashlight in my hand? From one of those guys I knocked down? From the popcorn man? I'll poke it in front of me. People run away. Maybe they don't like its light in their eyes. The end of the alley. There's the Green Valley and my house. And there's Mom and Pop waiting. Hey, let's sing. Let's dance. We're going home. Holloway, you so-and-so, you did it! Dark, sleep, wake up slow, listen. And Holloway ran down that amphitheater nonchalant as a high school kid jumping hurdles. A big saffron Martian beast with a mouth so damn big it looked like the rear end of a delivery truck lunged forward square at Holloway. What'd Holloway do? Holloway jumped right inside the monster's mouth. Right inside! What happened then? The animal looked dumbfounded. It tried to spit out. Then to top it all, what did Holloway do? I ask you, what did he do? He drew forth his Boy Scout blade and went chick, chick, chick all around the bloody interior, pretending like he's holed up in an ice wagon, chipping himself off pieces of ice. No? On my honor. The monster, after taking a bit of this chick, chick, chick business, leaped around, cavorting, floundering, rocking, tossing, and then, with a spout of blood, out popped Holloway, grinning like a kid, and on he ran, dodging spears and pretending they were pebbles, leaping a line of crouched warriors and saying they were picket fenced. Then he lifted Berman and trotted with him until he met a 300-pound Martian wrestler. Holloway supposed that it was the truant officer and promptly kicked him in the face. Then he knocked down another guy, working furiously at the buttons of a paralysis machine, which looked to Holloway like a popcorn wagon, after which two gigantic black Martian leopards attacked, resembling to him nothing more than two very bad drivers in dark automobiles. Holloway sidestepped, the two cars crashed and tore at each other, fighting. Holloway pumped on, shooting people with his flashlight, which he retrieved from the popcorn man, pointing the flash at people. He was amazed when they vanished, and oh. Holloway's waking up. I saw his eyelids flicker. Quiet, everyone. Holloway, you awake? Yeah, I've been listening to you talk for 5 minutes. I still don't understand. Nothing happened at all. How long I've been asleep? 2 days. Nothing happened, eh? Nothing except you got the Martians kowtowing, that's all, brother. Your spectacular performance impressed people. The enemy suddenly decided that if one Earthman could do what you did, what would happen if 1,000,000 more came? Everybody keeps on with this joking, this lying about Mars. Stop it. Where am I? Aboard the rocket, about to take off. Leave Earth? No, I don't want to leave Earth. Good green Earth. Let go, I'm afraid. Let go of me. Stop the ship. Holloway, this is Mars. We're going back to Earth. Liars, all of you. I don't want to go to Mars. I want to stay here on Earth. Holy cow, here we go again. Hold him down, Gus. Hey, doctor, on the double. Come help Holloway change his mind back, will you? Liars! You can't do this! Liars! Liars! End of Defense Mech by Ray Bradbury. The Monster Maker by Ray Bradbury. Suddenly, it was there. There wasn't time to blink or speak or get scared. Click Hathaway's camera was loaded, and he stood there listening to it rack spin film between his fingers, and he knew he was getting a damn sweet picture of everything that was happening. The picture of Marnigan, hunched huge over the control console, wrenching levers, jamming studs with freckled fists, and out in the dark of the forepart there was space, and a star sprinkling and this meteor coming like blazing fury. Click Hathaway felt the ship move under him like a sensitive animal's skin. And then the meteor hit. It made a spiked fist and knocked the rear jets flat, and the ship spun like a cosmic merry-go-round. There was plenty of noise. Too damn much. Hathaway only knew he was picked up and hurled against a lever bank, and that Marnigan wasn't long in following, swearing loud words. Click remembered hanging onto his camera and gritting to keep holding it. What a sweet shot that had been of the meteor. A sweeter one still of Marnigan beating hell out of the controls and keeping his words to himself until just now. It got quiet. It got so quiet you could almost hear the asteroids rushing up cold, blue, and hard. You could hear your heart kicking a tom-tom between your sick stomach and your empty lungs. Stars, asteroids, revolved. Click grabbed Marnigan because he was the nearest thing and held on. You came hunting for a space raider, and you ended up cradled in a slab-sized Irishman's arms, diving at a hunk of metal death. What a fade-out. "Irish," he heard himself say. "Is this it?" "Is this what?" yelled Marnigan inside his helmet. "Is this where the big producer yells cut?" Marnigan fumed. "I'll die when I'm damn good and ready. And when I'm ready, I'll inform you, and you can picture me profile for Cosmic Films." They both waited, thrust against the ship's side and held by a hand of gravity, listening to each other's breathing, hard in the earphones. Your hit. The ship struck. It made a spiked fist. Bouncing, it struck again. It turned end over and stopped. Hathaway felt himself grabbed. He and Marnigan rattled round, human dice in a croupier's cup. The shell of a ship burst, air and energy flung out. Hathaway screamed the air out of his lungs, but his brain was thinking quick, crazy, unimportant things. The best scenes in life never reach film, or an audience. Like this one, damn it! Like this one! His brain spun, racketing like the instantaneous flicking motions of his camera. Silence came and engulfed all the noise, ate it up and swallowed it. Hathaway shook his head, instinctively grabbed at the camera locked to his mid-belt. There was nothing but stars, twisted wreckage, cold, that pierced through his vac suit, and silence. He wriggled out of the wreckage into that silence. He didn't know what he was doing until he found the camera in his fingers, as if it had grown there when he was born. He stood there, thinking. Well, at least I'll have a few good scenes on film. A hunk of metal teetered, fell with a crash. Marnigan elevated 7 feet of bellowing manhood from the wreck. "Hold it!" cracked Hathaway's high voice. Marnigan froze. The camera whirred. "Low-angle shot! Interplanetary patrolman emerges unscathed from asteroid crack-up. Swell stuff. I'll get a raise for this." "From the toe of me boot!" snarled Marnigan brusquely. Oxen's shoulders flexed inside his vac suit. "I might have died in there, and you nursing that film contraption." Hathaway felt funny inside suddenly. "I never thought of that. Marnigan, die? I just took it for granted you'd come through. You always have. Funny, but you don't think about dying. You try not to." Hathaway stared at his gloved hand, but the gloving was so thick and heavy he couldn't tell if it was shaking. Muscles in his bony face went down, pale. "Where are we?" "A million miles from nobody." They stood in the middle of a pocked, time-eroded meteor plain that stretched off, dipping down into silent indigo and a rash of stars. Overhead, the sun poised, black and stars all around it, making it look sick. "If we walk in opposite directions, Click Hathaway, we'd be shaking hands the other side of this rock in 2 hours." Marnigan shook his mop of dusty red hair. "And I promised the boys at Luna Base this time I'd capture that Gunther lad."
His voice stopped and the silence spoke. Hathaway felt his heart pumping slow, hot pumps of blood.
I checked my oxygen, Irish. 60 minutes of breathing left.
The silence punctuated that sentence, too. Upon the sharp meteoric rocks, Hathaway saw the tangled insides of the radio, the food supply mashed and scattered.